Chapter 1253. The reason why he couldn't do it was because compared to the demigod alien race, Long Yu's level of human race and demon race cultivators were like ants. In fact, they couldn't even compare to ants. Would humans communicate with an ant? Would they even try to communicate with an ant? Absolutely not. Therefore, although the three demigod aliens were surprised that Long Yu had come back, they only thought that he was out of his mind and didn't care about it at all. They planned to kill him directly. However, at this moment, Long Yu finally took out the greatest reliance that gave him the courage to come back. A dark purple hexagonal crystal appeared in Long Yu's hand and immediately attracted the attention of the two demigods of the Ice God clan. The two demigods all flinched. The reason was that the dark purple hexagonal crystal that Long Yu took out was a holy relic of the Ice God clan. Regardless of whether it was the Ice God clan, the Desolate God clan, or the Fire God clan, they were collectively referred to as the Foreign God clans. They were all born from a place called the Origin Divine Ruin. These foreign god clans each had their own sacred objects that represented the origin of their clans. They were extremely important to them, but they were all taken away by Dragon Emperor Geo a long time ago and hidden in the Geo realm. It was safe to say that the holy relic of the foreign gods was equivalent to the ultimate treasures that had been missing for many years for the foreign gods. They were even more valuable than the life of a demigod alien. If the foreign gods were asked to sacrifice a demigod in exchange for the holy relic of their race, they would definitely agree and do it without any hesitation. It was not hard to imagine how attractive the holy relic was to the six foreign gods. Now, faced with a difficult situation, Long Yu took out the holy relic of the Ice God clan and exposed it to the vortex of the power of the five elements at the beginning. The two demigods of the Ice God clan were completely dumbfounded. However, the two demigods of the Ice God clan immediately came back to themselves. Although it was the treasure of the Ice God clan that had been missing for a long time, they were not stunned for too long. Instead, they wanted to take away the holy relic of the Ice God clan in the blink of an eye. Unfortunately, they were still stunned for a moment, and it was during this moment that something happened. As soon as Long Yu took out the relic of the Ice God clan, he threw it in the direction of the demigod of the Desolate God clan. The demigod of the Desolate God clan was overjoyed to see that. He took action without thinking. His body that looked like a white thorn ball flashed and grabbed the holy item of the Ice God clan. The Desolate God race had obtained the sacred relic of the Ice God race. And this was the situation that Long Yu wanted to see, because Long Yu had heard before that it was not that there was no competition between the six foreign god clans, but that the competition was quite intense, and they had never joined forces before. If it weren't for the fact that the demigods of the Ice God clan and the Desolate God clan weren't working together, they wouldn't have seen the demigods of the Ice God clan and the Desolate God clan working together. Therefore, Long Yu concluded that the two demigods of the Ice God clan in front of him and the demigod of the Desolate God clan were definitely not on the same side. As for the sacred relic, even if it wasn't the sacred relic of their own clan, it would still be extremely valuable after it was obtained. For example, now that the demigod of the Desolate God clan had obtained the sacred relic of the Ice God clan, he could negotiate with the Ice God clan later and get a lot of things. The Ice God clan must regard the sacred relic of their clan as the ultimate treasure. If the Desolate God clan obtained it, they would have a great advantage in the process of communication with the Ice God clan, especially now that the two parties had joined forces to attack the Demon clan and it was time to divide the spoils of war. Long Yu's speculation was not wrong. When the demigod of the Desolate God clan obtained the sacred relic of the Ice God clan, it was impossible for him to return it to the Ice God clan. Instead, he immediately turned around and ran away. What a joke! Not to mention that the operation to attack the Demon clan had met with an accident. Even if everything went well and the three extraterrestrial galaxies that belonged to the Demon clan were conquered, the benefits that the Desolate God clan could get would be limited. Now that the demigod of the Desolate God clan had obtained the sacred relic of the Ice God clan that Long Yu had thrown out, he didn't even bother to participate in the operation anymore. He simply wanted to leave with the sacred relic. However, the two demigods of the Ice God clan certainly wouldn't let him run away like that. The nine-edged ice crystal demigod directly chased after the demigod. His terrifying aura swept out and even forced the swirls of the five elements at the beginning to back off. The other demigod of the Ice God clan didn't chase after the demigod, because at this moment, Long Yu happened to be telepathically connected with the Void Dragon Blade. He asked the Void Dragon Blade to send a telepathic thought to the demigod of the Ice God clan. Apart from the sacred relic of the Ice God clan, I also know the whereabouts of the sacred relic of the Desolate God clan. Long Yu didn't hide what he had at all. Instead, he simply laid his cards on the table and said that he also had the sacred relic of the Desolate God clan. Since he had just thrown out the sacred relic of the Ice God clan, his words were very credible for the demigod of the Desolate God clan. Originally, the demigod of the Silver God clan wanted to kill Long Yu directly. However, after receiving the telepathic thought from the Void Dragon Blade, he thought for a moment and didn't attack Long Yu. Because he was very clear that although he was capable of completely suppressing Long Yu, in fact, he was also under a lot of pressure in the swirls of the five elements at the beginning. Even if he just wanted to slap an ant to death, it would still take him a little bit of time. That little bit of time was enough for Long Yu to choose to self-destruct after he sensed his intention. Long Yu didn't say that he still had the sacred relic of the Desolate God clan. He only said that he knew the whereabouts of the sacred relic of the Desolate God clan, which meant that the sacred relic of the Desolate God clan wasn't with him. He didn't lie to the demigod, because before Long Yu came in, he had given the other five sacred relic of the Ice God clan to Red Oriole and asked her to keep them safe. Give me back my weapon and open a spacetime channel to the demon race for me. Then, I'll tell you the clues to the sacred relic of the Desolate God clan. Long Yu was very calm. Seeing that the demigod of the Ice God clan didn't attack immediately, he knew that there was a possibility of negotiation. During the process, Ma Qianning kept transmitting power to Long Yu, so that Long Yu could turn into nothingness and survive in the swirls of the five elements at the beginning. At this moment, Long Yu was sure that the demigod of the Ice God clan in front of him wouldn't attack him until he got the sacred relic of the Desolate God clan. Then, it was time for him to propose an acceptable condition for the demigod to let him go. Long Yu continued to communicate with the demigod of the Ice God clan through telepathic thoughts through the blade of Void Shadow. Let me get my weapon back, and you send me away. I'll tell you the clues to the sacred relic of the Desolate God clan. It's a fair deal. You can deduce the clues. If they're wrong, it'll be very easy for you to catch up and kill me. Besides, you won't lose anything by letting me go. Hearing the telepathic thoughts that Long Yu transmitted, the demigod of the Ice God clan seemed to be thinking. Compared to demigod-level existences, Long Yu was indeed just an ant. The other party could kill him with just a spit of their saliva. However, Long Yu knew the whereabouts of the Desolate God clan's holy relic. This was the only thing that could restrain them. This was Long Yu's last resort. If it were anything else, even if it was a divine quality item from the primordial era, it wouldn't be able to move the demigod at all, much less stop the enemy. However, the sacred relic was something that the foreign gods had been searching for thousands of years, and it was something that was very important to them. Are you not afraid that I'll kill you immediately after I get the clues you give me, whether they're true or not? After a while, the demigod of the Ice God clan finally sent a telepathic thought to Long Yu. He seemed to be quite interested in Long Yu. I will definitely tell you the clues after I leave this space. Although it will be easy for you to come out and kill me, there will definitely be some trouble. If you are not careful, you might even be besieged by the Demon Clan's experts. Long Yu laughed and continued to send telepathic thoughts through the blade of void shadow. You're alone right now. I believe you know the consequences of being stalled. You won't take the risk to kill an insignificant person like me, unless I'm lying to you. You're not bad. The demigod of the Ice God clan glowed. Deal. Take your weapon. The blue blade of void shadow immediately appeared from the void and flew to Long Yu, allowing Long Yu to sense Little Void's existence more clearly. He was finally relieved. Then, Long Yu entered the internal space of the blade of void shadow. He no longer needed to turn into nothingness to live in the swirl of the power of the primordial 5 element. Ma Qianning also breathed a sigh of relief, but there was no need to mention how shocked she was. She didn't know the communication between Long Yu and the demigod of the Ice God clan. She didn't even know what Long Yu did in Long Yu's mind at all. But at this moment, Long Yu brought her back to the internal space of the blade of void shadow, which greatly shocked her. What happened? Ma Qianning couldn't help but ask. I made a deal with the demigod of the Ice God clan. Long Yu said simply. Right now, he was not sure if the demigod of the Ice God clan had really agreed to his conditions. He had to be vigilant at all times, because if he was not careful, the demigod of the Ice God clan might use mind control to force Long Yu to reveal the clues of the sacred relic of the Desolate God clan. Although Long Yu had practiced the body of purity, it was impossible for him to resist the mental control of a demigod. Also, Long Yu wasn't sure if the demigod of the Ice God clan had any evil methods. Therefore, he was on the verge of self-detonation all the time. All his strength was concentrated in his abdomen. Should the demigod of the Ice God clan do anything, he would choose to self-detonate immediately. Chapter 1254. For the demigod of the Ice God clan before Long Yu, the sacred item of the Desolate God clan was something that it had to get. It must be noted that the sacred item of the Ice God clan had just been stolen by the demigod of the Desolate God clan. Although it wanted to work with its friend and take it back, it still trusted its friend very much. Even if it was a one-on-one fight, it wouldn't be killed by the demigod of the Desolate God clan. It should be able to take back the sacred item of the Ice God clan, but it would take some time. Therefore, the only thing that the Silver Demigod needed to do was to deal with Long Yu. It needed to find out the information about the sacred item of the Desolate God clan from Long Yu. If it succeeded, it would be a great fortune for them to get the sacred item of the 2 clans directly. If they weren't in the swirl of power of the 5 elements, the demigod could have intimidated Long Yu and obtained the information by force. However, in the current situation, its movements would be restricted by the power of the Genesis 5 elements in the surroundings, allowing Long Yu to detect it, giving him time to self-destruct. This was too crucial and too fatal for it. It was a dignified demigod-level existence, but now it could only make a deal with a mere 6-star Imperial Monarch human brat. However, there was nothing the Silver Demigod could do. After reaching an agreement with Long Yu, it began to gather all the strength in its body, ready to break a gap in the swirl of power. Just by relying on its own strength, it could not open up a gap in the spacetime barrier, but it could borrow the power of the 5 elemental vortexes in the surroundings, borrowing power to fight back, somewhat similar to the Tai Chi of Long Yu's previous world. The Silver Ice God Demigod didn't hesitate at all. He immediately opened the passageway and sent him away as Long Yu had said. Long Yu looked very calm in the inner space of the void nether dragon blade, but in reality, he was extremely nervous and could explode at any moment. Little Void, do you feel anything unusual or uncomfortable? Long Yu's heart moved and asked Little Void. The blade of the void spectral dragon had just been imprisoned by the Silver Demigod, and it had been returned to Long Yu so straightforwardly. Long Yu suspected that the enemy had done something to Little Void. Not yet, but my intuition tells me that the demigod won't let us go so easily. As long as we leave this place, I'll send you away from me immediately. I'm afraid that the demigod has done something to me. Little Sue looked a little scared. She wasn't afraid that something would happen to her. If it weren't for Long Yu, she would have already been in trouble. She was just afraid that she would endanger Long Yu. Of course, she knew that Long Yu came back to find her, but she certainly didn't want to hurt Long Yu. At first, when she sensed Long Yu's return, she was quite shocked. Thankfully, Long Yu opened the situation with the relic of the alien gods and got a chance to negotiate with the demigod of the Ice God clan. If the three demigods wanted to open the space barrier that had just been closed, it would take them at least half an hour. Now that there was only one demigod of the Ice God clan left, it was impossible to break the space barrier immediately even with the power of the original 5 elements. It would take at least 1 to 4 hours. That was the time that Long Yu had bought. What he was thinking was certainly not to leave just like that and tell them the clues about the relic of the desolate God clan. What he really wanted to do was to capture all the 3 demigod aliens. Long Yu couldn't do that himself, but as long as the demigod experts of the demon race arrived, it was still possible to achieve that. At the very least, Long Yu couldn't let the 2 relics fall into the hands of the aliens. Even if they were exposed, it would be much better for them to be kept by the demons than to fall into the hands of the aliens. Right now, Long Yu's heart was filled with an incomparable sense of urgency. Everything depended on how Red Oriole was progressing. However, how could his thoughts escape the notice of the demigod Ice God clan? The silver demigod of the Ice God clan naturally knew that Long Yu and the other 2 had escaped, but only Long Yu and Ma Qianing had returned. Where was the other one? It was obvious that he had gone to get reinforcements. However, before they came here, the Ice God clan and the Desolate God clan had performed a deduction together and knew the current state of the demigod demons. There were 3 demigod demons guarding the 3 extraterrestrial galaxies, but at this moment, one of the demigod demons was not in the extraterrestrial galaxies but had just left. That was why they chose to attack the demons at this moment. Even if the 2 demigods of the demon race arrived, it was impossible for them to stop the 3 demigods of the extraterrestrial galaxies. They only needed to send 2 demigods to stop the enemy, and then the other demigod only needed to charge into the 3 extraterrestrial galaxies to wreak havoc. Nobody would be able to stop them. It was true that the demigod of the Desolate God clan had already benefited and was about to retreat, but how could the Ice God clan be so well prepared? Both Long Yu and the silver demigod of the Ice God clan were playing a game in their hearts, but it was obvious that the silver demigod was much more likely to succeed than Long Yu. Inside the battlecruiser fortress, Red Oriole had told the few commanders of the demon race in the battlecruiser fortress everything that had happened in the spacetime pathway. One of the deputy commanders was a member of the Blood Demon clan. It was safe to say that he had watched Red Oriole grow up. I believe what Her Highness said. She has no reason to lie. If that's the case, we'd better act quickly and inform the demigods of what happened here. The 6th Phase Great Sovereign of the Blood Demon clan spoke to one of the 7th Phase Great Sovereign Demon commanders. He was the deputy commander of the commander, and the commander usually trusted him a lot. The Blood Demon clan is an army, so of course we can trust them. However, the appearance of 3 demigods at the same time, and moreover, the Ice God clan and the Desolate God clan working together, is a bit unbelievable. I've been in this position for hundreds of years, but I've never heard of any extraterrestrial races working together. A 7th Phase Great Sovereign Commander said calmly. Although he said that he trusted the Blood Demon clan at first, his subsequent words made it clear that he did not trust what Red Oriole had said. I can describe the appearance of the 3 demigod aliens, Red Oriole said calmly. Red Oriole indifferently said. She had originally wanted to see what these demon race commanders were like. However, she was disappointed. Out of the 5 demon race commanders that were at the 7th Phase Dominator realm, 3 of them clearly didn't believe her. This was simply a problem with their intelligence. Did Red Oriole gain anything by lying to them? Absolutely not. Perhaps it was because they had made a wrong decision that caused the 4 great sovereign legions of the demon clan to perish in the spacetime tunnel, so they did not want to face reality. If what Red Oriole said was true, then these commanders would obviously have to take responsibility for this incident. Because the appearance of the spacetime tunnel was such a huge matter, yet they did not directly report it to the demigods of the demon clan. Of course, not all of the 5 demon commanders present were idiots. In the end, one of them still opened his mouth and said, "Describe the demigods of the alien races that you saw, and then pass this news to the demigods as quickly as possible." Red Oriole immediately began to describe the 2 ice god aliens. One was silver, and the other was in the shape of a 9-pronged ice crystal. They were both very special ice gods, and it was very easy to distinguish them. There was also a desolate god alien race that was very special. It was a white spiky ball, and it should be known that ordinary desolate gods were brown or gray in color. The 3 demigod aliens all had different appearances. If they had not seen them before, it was impossible for them to know them so clearly. After all, how many people had seen a demigod of the alien races? Since the ancient times, ordinary cultivators who had seen a demigod of alien races could not have survived at all. Now, Red Oriole herself had said that she and Long Yu had the opportunity to escape only because the demigod aliens appeared in the spacetime tunnel. Now, Long Yu had already returned to the spacetime tunnel to buy himself more time. She could only hope that the demigods of the demon clan would learn of this as soon as possible. After Red Oriole finished describing the appearance of the 3 demigod aliens, special messengers immediately set off to deliver the news to the demigods of the demon clan. Only professionals could communicate with the demigods of the demon clan. Otherwise, wouldn't the demigods be annoyed to death if everybody wanted to meet the demigods? Now that the spacetime tunnel has disappeared, why do we need to inform the demigods of this matter? One commander expressed his displeasure. 3 demigod aliens from 2 different races appeared at the same time. That's obviously impossible. Since ancient times, such a situation has never happened. Cut the crap. If we delay any longer, something big might really happen. We've already lost 4 Dominator legions. Do you want to lose even more? Another commander snorted coldly. I told you from the beginning that it was best to report this matter to the demigods. Now look at it. 4 Dominator legions have been destroyed at once. This loss is almost fatal for the demon clan. The 5 commanders on the scene immediately began to quarrel. It could be seen that there had always been conflicts among the 5 of them, and they probably had never stopped. Every matter would be divided into different factions with different opinions. Seeing this, Red Oriole secretly shook her head. Even though they were the legions on the battlefield of the demon clan, they were living too comfortably now. There was no sense of urgency. The main reason was that it had been a long time since there had been any major battles that threatened the foundation of the demon clan, so these commanders were more inclined to fight for power. Fortunately, not all the commanders were like this. 7th phase Great Dominators were the cornerstones of any race. Every 7th phase Great Dominator was an extremely important existence. To be able to become the commander of the legions on the battlefield of the demon clan, they definitely had something extraordinary about them, and they had absolute faith in fighting against the aliens. It was just that these 5 commanders had a dispute on how to fight against the aliens, which affected the entire decision-making. This situation could not be said to be corruption or internal strife. It could only be said that the emergency measures were not enough. Chapter 1255. Distance was a dreadful word even for the experts in the demigod level. It was because this world was too vast. Even in the territory of the demon race, it would take a demigod days to travel from one end to the other. Even from the 3rd outer domain galaxy, it would take 2 to 4 hours to reach the spacetime corridor, so it was necessary. Thankfully, the transmission of information was much faster than they could move. With some special arrays, the long-distance transmission of information could be achieved. Very soon, Red Oriole's words were delivered to the ears of the demigod demons at the center of the outer domain, word for word. It was a pity that the demigod expert from the first outer domain happened to leave. Therefore, only the demigod demons from the second outer domain and the third outer domain received the message. 3 demigod aliens appeared at the same time, 2 from the Ice God clan and 1 from the Desolate God clan. Their appearance was still clear, which shocked the 2 demigods. Doubtlessly, they were familiar with the 3 alien demigods, or at least heard of them. It must be noted that even the Ice God clan and the Desolate God clan had almost as many demigods as the demons did. After receiving the message, the 2 demigods set off immediately, but it would still take them at least 2 hours to arrive at the scene. In the swirl of the power of the 5 elements, Long Yu was still confronting the silver demigod of the Ice God clan. Could he make it in time? Long Yu didn't know. He was sure that Red Oriole could deliver the message to the demigod demons, but it would take time for the demigod demons to arrive. What they needed to compete now was the speed of the demigod demons and the speed of the silver demigod breaking the spacetime barrier. If the demigod demons arrived first, it was needless to say that Long Yu would win the bet. However, if the demigod demons broke the spacetime barrier first, it would be Long Yu who would suffer. Long Yu had truly reached the point where he didn't know what to do. Faced with a demigod, what he had done was already the best he could do. He had planned to return and rescue the Netherworld Dragon Dagger, but he didn't have much confidence at all. The current situation was the best that Long Yu could fight for. In terms of cultivation and strength, Long Yu was too weak. If Long Yu had the strength of a demigod, how could things have turned out like this? If he was like the Jiyo Dragon Emperor back then, and could single-handedly go to the center of the outer god race to snatch the sacred object, then there would be no problem now. Of course, it was just a thought. It was impossible for Long Yu to become someone like the Jiyo Dragon Emperor. After all, he was a demigod, and an expert among the demigods. Right now, Long Yu was only a 6-star emperor. No matter how talented he was, he could only slowly improve himself. Time ticked by. An hour passed. 2 hours. The demigod demons were still trying to break the spacetime barrier, but obviously, it still needed some time to break the spacetime barrier so that Long Yu could leave. Of course, it opened the spacetime barrier for the next operation. It didn't give up the idea of invading the territory of the demons. Instead, it became stronger. It was certain that, since Long Yu knew where the sacred object of the Desolate God clan was, it was probably in the territory of the demons. Even if it found the clue of the sacred object of the Desolate God clan, how could it be obtained without invading the territory of the demons? On the battlefield, the power of the 5 elements was too agitated for Long Yu to sense the situation of the demigod of the Desolate God clan and the demigod of the Ice God clan. Perhaps only demigod-level existences would be able to sense other people in such an environment. In any case, Long Yu had no way of detecting the existence of people far away. Since the Ice God clan didn't have a face, the demigod looked like a silver hexagonal ice crystal and had no expression, which made it difficult for Long Yu to observe any useful information from it. If it were a human or a demon, Long Yu might be able to see something by observing it. But since it was an ice god, there was nothing he could do. Long Yu was still in the state of self-detonation. As soon as the silver demigod moved, he would explode himself. It was not a joke. He would really do it. That was the only way to suppress the silver demigod. Now 2 hours had passed since the beginning. Long Yu and the silver demigod did not have any further communication, because there was no need for it. There was no friendship between the 2 races, only hostility. As long as it was possible, the silver demigod would never let go of Long Yu. Long Yu knew that very well. Now, it all depended on luck. Long Yu waited with difficulty. The result would be out after 2 hours. Calculating the time, the demigod of the demon race should have arrived, or the silver demigod of the Ice God clan would be able to break the space-time barrier very soon. If it weren't for the space-time pathway, it would have been very difficult for the silver demigod to break the space-time barrier, or it would have been impossible. Right now, the space-time pathway had just disappeared and was only temporarily swallowed by the power of the five elements. In fact, it was still connected to the territory of the demon race and the Ice God clan. It was just that the space-time barrier was getting thicker and thicker. As time went by, Long Yu was more and more anxious. Ma Qianing, who was inside the Void Spirit Dragon Dagger with him, was just as anxious. Her level was much higher than Long Yu's. Naturally, she could tell what was going on. Right in front of the silver demigod's hexagonal ice crystal body, the infinite power of the water element condensed into a swirl of power and crashed at the invisible barrier of time and space. The existence of the barrier of time and space could only be sensed by the demigod-level existences. Tremors spread out non-stop, forcing the storm of the power of the five elements to retreat. Finally, a few cracks appeared in the space-time barrier. The silver demigod of the Ice God clan bombarded for 2 hours with the power of the storm of the five elements around, and finally, some cracks appeared in the space-time barrier. What happened next was easy. After only a few seconds, the cracks expanded, and the space-time barrier leading to the demon race was broken again. That scene made Long Yu's heart tighten. He knew that the critical moment had come. If there were no demigods outside of the space-time barrier, he would be dead for sure. At this moment, many of the demonic cultivators who were guarding outside also noticed the changes on this side. They hurriedly sent someone to inform the battlefield fortress while nervously guarding the exit of the spatial barrier, but they did not dare to act rashly. Nobody dared to come in. Without any hesitation, Long Yu asked Little Void to fly toward the exit of the space-time barrier. Very soon, he was close to the exit, but he found that there seemed to be no demigod of the demon race outside of the exit. This discovery caused Long Yu's heart to thump. The situation seemed to be starting to take a turn for the worse. The clue of the sacred item of the Desolate God clan should be told now, right? The telepathic thoughts of the silver demigod of the Ice God clan were transmitted to Long Yu's head, but his hexagonal ice crystal body did not move at all. If he really wanted to deal with Long Yu, he did not need to move at all to kill him. Wait for me to leave here first. This space-time barrier can last at least 2 hours after it is broken. I need to make sure that when you want to come out and kill me, you'll have to pay a price before I tell you the information. Long Yu sent out telepathic thoughts with the Void Ghost Dragon Dagger. Then, he got closer and closer to the gap, feeling more and more nervous. He was negotiating with a demigod of the Ice God clan right now. Who knew whether or not the demigod would directly kill him out of displeasure? Everything was possible. At this moment, whether or not Long Yu could survive completely depended on the demigod's mood. As Long Yu got closer and closer to the gap of the space-time barrier, the silver demigod still did not move at all, and Long Yu, on the other hand, maintained the appearance that he would explode at any moment, threatening the silver demigod. Right when Long Yu reached the gap of the space-time barrier, the Void Ghost Dragon Dagger immediately turned into a streak of blue light and flew out. It was also at this time that 2 huge figures suddenly flashed out of the void and directly blocked the gap in the space-time barrier. A giant black tiger and an 8-clawed pterosaur, 2 incomparably tyrannical demon cultivators. As soon as they descended, they shocked everyone with their imposing manner. Demigod! The demigod of the demon race finally showed up. Isn't it too timely? Have they been waiting nearby since the beginning? Long Yu was so excited that he burst into tears after his escape. The 2 demigod demons were obviously well prepared. The moment they appeared, they directly charged at the other side of the space-time barrier. They must have been planning to deal with the demigod aliens inside. However, Long Yu had not completely reached the safe place yet. It was because he did not know whether or not the silver demigod of the Ice God clan had done something to the void ghost dragon dagger. Obviously, only demigods could detect the tricks of demigods. However, in the next moment, he saw that the enormous black tiger demigod suddenly turned around and looked at Long Yu. Then, it opened its mouth and spat out a mouthful of black saliva. It made Long Yu and the demonic cultivators around more or less confused. What was going on? I've finally escaped. Why did the demigod demon spit at me? Long Yu could not figure it out no matter how he thought about it. However, Ma Qianning immediately said, "Let little void go up." The demigod must have discovered that little void was tampered with. He's trying to help. Hearing that, Long Yu threw the void ghost dragon dagger at the black saliva without thinking. The reason why Long Yu believed it was because he couldn't think of any reason why that demonic demigod would spit on him. Chapter 1256. The void spirit dragon dagger turned into a streak of blue light and hit the black saliva that the enormous black tiger spat out. Then, a layer of silver water vapor appeared on the surface of the void spirit dragon dagger. The silver water vapor seemed to be hidden inside the void spirit dragon dagger, but after it touched the black saliva, it was directly evaporated and gradually disappeared in the void. That scene made Long Yu and Ma Qianning, who were far away, finally take a breath in relief and feel lucky. The void spirit dragon dagger had indeed been tampered with. Thankfully, the two demigods of the demon race arrived in time, and the enormous black tiger demigod saw that something was wrong with the void spirit dragon dagger and helped. Although it was just a simple spit, it had done Long Yu a great favor. That was the difference between a demigod expert and a regular cultivator. There were only 7 such experts in the entire territory of the demon race. A random spit could solve a problem that regular cultivators couldn't solve at all. After the silver water vapor on its body evaporated, the void spirit dragon blade shuttled back from the void and returned to Long Yu's side. "I don't think there's any problem, but that mouthful of water is so dirty. Hurry up and wash it for me." Hearing Little Void's words, Long Yu immediately burst out laughing. This guy was actually worried that his saliva was too dirty. If the black tiger demigod heard this, would it be so angry that it would vomit blood? But in any case, now that the demigods had arrived, Long Yu's crisis had been resolved. He didn't need to be scared in front of the demigods anymore, nor did he need to bear the pain of losing the void spirit dragon dagger. The only thing that mattered to him now was how the battle would end. At this moment, there was nothing Long Yu could do. He couldn't even watch. It was impossible for him to approach a battle between demigods. The only thing he could do now was to wait for the result of the message. In the broken exit of the space-time barrier, the enormous black tiger demigod and the 8-clawed pterodactyl broke in and stopped the silver ice god demigod from the front and the back. The silver ice god demigod had expected that demigods would come, but he didn't expect that they would come so fast. "The message you received must be that I have 3 demigods on my side, right? TSK. I didn't expect that you 2 old guys would dare to come. Aren't you afraid of dying here?" The silver ice god demigod sent out his telepathic thoughts rather mockingly. The reason why it made the deal with Long Yu was that it thought that the demons, who only had 2 demigods, would not dare to come directly after hearing that they had 3 demigods. It was likely that they would hesitate for a while or wait for other demigods of the demon race to come together. But out of his expectation, the black tiger and the 8-clawed pterodactyl demigods came directly. "There are 3 demigods, aren't there? But you are the only one here right now. You should be the one to die in a fight." The giant black tiger's divine sense spread out without the slightest hint of cowardice. Its aura spread out and actually shook away the energy storm of the Genesis 5 elements. Of tiger, dragon demigod, of spirit, and 9 dragon of god demigod, he spirit and was. Ice spirit of king, but he didn't expect to see only one, and the Ennead ice crystal and the desolate god races too had disappeared? Or was there an ambush somewhere else? The eight-clawed pterodactyl said to the black tiger. The eight-clawed Quetzalcoatlus said to the huge black tiger demigod in a low voice. As a matter of fact, the eight-clawed pterodactyl's name was Dragon Wing, and the black tiger's name was Landslide. Few people outside knew the real names of the two demigods. They only knew that one was a black tiger and the other was a pterodactyl, which was something that ordinary people in the territory of demons knew. Most demons couldn't even reach the level of demigods. Hearing what the demigod pterodactyl said, the black tiger, Landslide, sensed the battle not far away and chuckled. Dragonwing, it seems that my senses are still not as good as yours. Sensing the battle far away, Dragonwing and Landslide were both delighted. Although they didn't know why the two demigods were fighting, it was undoubtedly a great help to them. Then, it would be 2 against 1. Why would Dragonwing and Landslide be scared? Landslide, Dragonwing, why don't you retreat? The silver ice god demigod sent a telepathic thought. We can pretend that nothing happened today. You retreat and fix the space barrier. We won't attack the demons anymore. In your dreams. Do you think we're stupid? Landslide burst into laughter. Since the two of them are fighting, there must be some conflict between you. If so, why don't we take the opportunity to kill you? Kill me? Do you think you can? The silver ice god demigod, however, was not in a hurry. He sent a telepathic thought casually. Do you really think that only the two of us are here today? That meant that the Ice God clan had reinforcements too. After all, this time and space pathway was connected to the territory of the demons and the Ice God clan. It couldn't be more than easy to summon 1 or 2 demigods from the territory of the Ice God clan. However, Dragon Wings and Landslide were not bothered at all. They clicked their tongues and began to attack the demigod of the Silver Ice God clan without saying a word. In fact, the 2 demigods had guessed that the enemy had more people, but they were prepared for it. Why weren't the demigod from the first outer domain here? Of course, there was a reason. Right at this moment, in the distant territory of the Ice God clan, a demigod demon suddenly appeared and started a massacre in the territory of the Ice God clan. Countless members of the Ice God clan were killed, and countless training resources were plundered. The Ice God clan couldn't stop it at all. A demigod demon broke into the territory of the Ice God clan. The damage it could cause was absolutely shocking. It immediately attracted the attention of the leadership of the Ice God clan. The demigod of the Ice God clan, who was about to reinforce the space-time pathway in the territory of the Ice God clan, immediately knew that it couldn't go. Because the demigod demon had come to their territory. How could it leave to help in the space-time pathway? It was impossible. In any case, it had to ensure the safety of its territory first. Otherwise, the entire Ice God clan would suffer heavy losses, and its comprehensive strength would be greatly reduced. Therefore, the demigod demon of the first outer domain didn't leave the place he was supposed to guard for no reason. Instead, he intentionally took a detour and went to the territory of the Ice God clan to make trouble. Under such circumstances, the reinforcements that the Silver Ice God clan demigod in the space-time pathway were looking forward to couldn't come anytime soon. Just like the demons, there were only 3 demigods in the Ice God clan that were close to the periphery. The other demigods were all deep inside the territory of the Ice God clan. It wouldn't be a short time before reinforcements arrived. To prevent accidents from happening and causing the demigod demon to run to the depths of the territory of the Ice God clan, the exit of the space-time pathway in the territory of the Ice God clan wouldn't go too deep. It was only established in a place similar to the Outer Domain galaxy. Let's kill it now. Dragon Wings and Landslide, the top demigods of the demon race, attacked the Silver Ice God clan demigod together. They didn't show any mercy at all. Without any probing, they launched all kinds of deadly attacks, trying to kill the Silver Ice God clan demigod directly. The Silver Ice God clan demigod was caught off guard by such a situation. Come and help me. Seeing that he couldn't hold on any longer, he immediately called for help. The other nine-edged ice crystal demigod in the distance immediately realized that they were in trouble, but it couldn't give up on the sacred relic of the Ice God clan. Even if it had to lose a demigod, it had to get the sacred relic. At this moment, the battle between it and the white spiky desolate god clan demigod was in full swing. It had even suppressed the white spiky desolate god clan demigod. It could be foreseen that it wanted to kill the white spiky desolate god clan and take back the sacred relic of the ice god clan. At this moment, the nine-edged ice crystal demigod wouldn't turn around to help the silver demigod. The ice god clan was supposed to be the one who planned the game. They had taken all possible situations into consideration, and they wouldn't be at a disadvantage no matter what. However, because Long Yu took out the sacred relic of the Ice God clan, an accident happened, and the situation took a turn for the worse. The demigod Dragon Wings and Landslide exerted their full strength. Of course, the demigod was no weaker than the white spiky desolate god. The silver demigod was completely suppressed and couldn't fight back at all. Even though it was a demigod, it couldn't show its power in a 1 versus 2 situation. The silver demigod could only keep retreating toward the nine-edged ice crystal demigod. Hurry up. Let's work together and kill the two demigod desolate god clan demigod first. The silver demigod struggled to send a telepathic thought to the nine-edged ice crystal demigod and the white spiky desolate god clan demigod. As for the sacred relic, we can discuss how to divide it later. We can't let the demons take advantage of us. What it said made sense. Of course, the nine-edged ice crystal demigod and the desolate god clan demigod both knew that very well. However, the key question was, how could the three of them work together under such circumstances? Now that the desolate god clan demigod had the sacred relic of the ice god clan, all they wanted was to leave as soon as possible. Once the nine-edged ice crystal demigod left to help the silver demigod, the desolate god clan demigod would try to escape as soon as possible. It was impossible for them to work together. The appearance of the Ice God clan's sacred relic had disrupted all the Ice God clan's plans. The situation was even worse now. Chapter 1257. Not long after, Long Yu returned to the battlecruiser fortress. With Long Yu's meager cultivation, there was no point in staying in the space outside the spacetime tunnel. There was no need to waste time there. He wanted to meet up with Red Oriole and see how the situation was over there. When Long Yu returned to the battlecruiser fortress, someone immediately appeared and took Long Yu and Ma Qianing to the center of the fortress. As the only three people who had made it out of the spacetime tunnel alive, Red Oriole, Long Yu, and Ma Qianing were all highly regarded. Therefore, when Long Yu and Ma Qianing returned, they immediately attracted the attention of the higher-up. Very soon, Long Yu met up with Red Oriole again in front of the 5 commanders of the battlecruiser fortress. This place wasn't the mission hall, so he didn't see Lei Han, Bai Yu, and the others first. He didn't know that the situation in the mission hall was already very intense. Welcome back. Red Oriole had just heard that Long Yu had returned safely. At this time, she wanted to suppress her excitement and only greet Long Yu, but in the end, she couldn't hold back and ran over to hug Long Yu. In this kind of situation, other girls would directly throw themselves into their men's arms. Only Red Oriole would turn Long Yu around and hold him in her arms. In any case, Long Yu's safe return was a good thing for most people here. Being hugged by Red Oriole was also a very enjoyable thing for Long Yu. Didn't he see the other demon race cultivators around him all looking at Long Yu with envy, jealousy, and hatred? Red Oriole was the princess of the blood demon race. When had she ever favored a man so much? Moreover, this man was from the human race, a mere 6-star emperor. Of course, no one dared to look down on Long Yu now, because everyone already knew the role Long Yu had played in this battle. In any case, Long Yu had made a great contribution to the demon race by detonating the grand beginning furnace and making the space-time tunnel disappear in advance. Otherwise, the three demigod aliens would probably have invaded the demon race's territory with countless warriors of the Ice God Clan and the Desolate God Clan. Everyone knew that the three demigod aliens' small worlds must have a battlefield army stationed there. That was the only reason why they dared to come to the demon race's territory and conquer the three galaxies. Now, the demigods of the demon race, Dragon Wing and Landslide, had already confirmed the existence of the three demigod aliens. After all, Red Oriole had described the three demigod aliens perfectly. Also, Dragon Wing and Landslide did sense the aura of the demigod aliens after they arrived. It was revealed before the entrance of the space-time tunnel disappeared. Ordinary people couldn't sense it at all, but as demigods, Dragon Wing and Landslide sensed it immediately. After confirming that Red Oriole's information was true, Red Oriole and the other two became heroes. Although the three of them couldn't save the four Dominator legions of the demon race, they still made great contributions by detonating the grand beginning furnace in time and making the space-time tunnel disappear in advance. However, this time, the demon race had suffered a great loss by losing four Dominator legions for nothing. Thankfully, the two demigod lords of the demon race had arrived, and the battle hadn't reached the final moment yet. It was still uncertain who would win and who would lose in the end. As for the situation of the battle between demigods, nobody knew, nor did they know about the appearance of the alien relic. Therefore, Long Yu was probably the only one present who had a clear understanding and speculation about the battle between demigods. Since the Ice God Clan's relic was in the hands of the Desolate God Clan's demigod, it meant that the three demigod aliens couldn't join hands. So, if it was handled well, it was not impossible for Dragon Wing and Landslide to join hands and heavily injure them. It'd be best if I can kill all three demigod aliens and retrieve the relic. Otherwise, the news that I know the relic will definitely spread. Long Yu knew it very well. If the three demigod aliens didn't die, Long Yu wouldn't be able to live in peace in the future. There would always be demigod beings appearing, deducing his existence, and looking for trouble. Moreover, it might even trigger a frenzy of the alien races and make them join hands to attack the demon race. In that case, the demon race alone wouldn't be able to resist them. In that case, things would get serious. There was nothing that could make the alien races join hands, but the relic appearing in Long Yu's hands gave them such an opportunity. The simplest solution was to kill the three demigod aliens. In that case, the news about the relic wouldn't spread. After all, the enemy was in the storm of the power of the five elements at the beginning of time. Even the message couldn't be sent out unless they could break the space-time barrier. But would Dragon Wing and Landslide, the two demigods, give them any chance? 2 hours later, news came from the front line. Even the gap in the space-time barrier in the demon race's territory had been completely restored. As time went by, the space-time barrier would become thicker and thicker, and it would take much longer for two demigods to break the space-time barrier. 3 days. If the two demigods couldn't finish off the enemy in 3 days, the space-time barrier would return to its original state. In that case, it wouldn't be easy to break the space-time barrier. At least 2 demigods would have to bombard the space-time barrier for half a month. This was the same as creating a space-time tunnel. If 3 demigods worked together to create a space-time tunnel, it would take at least 10 days to break the space-time barrier and create the prototype of a space-time tunnel. Of course, if it wasn't a demigod, it was also possible to create a space-time tunnel. If 10 seventh-phase sovereigns bombarded it for 2 to 3 months, they could also break the space-time barrier in the void. However, there had to be a demigod inside. Otherwise, even a 7th-phase sovereign wouldn't be able to sense the existence of the space-time barrier. To put it simply, if Dragon Wing and Landslide didn't come out in 3 days, they would have to wait at least half a month to know the result of this battle. Right now, all they could do was wait. At the same time, they could pass down the rewards that belonged to Long Yu and Red Oriole. This time, Long Yu, Red Oriole, and Ma Qianning had made a great contribution. Of course, the battlefield army wouldn't be stingy. They each gave out some reward options, which were written on 3 jade slips and given to the 3 of them, allowing them to choose one of the rewards. Long Yu received the jade slip from one of the demon commander's hands. After that, he immersed his mind into it. Just a single glance was enough to stun him by the rewards within. This time, Long Yu had made a great contribution. There were 3 choices for Long Yu. The first choice was to directly give out 5 million battlefield military merits. Even a demon race expert like Lei Han would need at least 5 years to obtain 5 million battlefield army merit points, and that was if he continuously completed enough battlefield army missions every month. This time, Long Yu had so many rewards because of his previous deeds. From escorting the fierce fire rune to detonating the ancient beginning furnace and finding a way to stall 3 demigod aliens. Everything made Long Yu qualified to receive this reward. This was under the premise that these demon race commanders didn't know that Long Yu had taken out the Ice God clan's holy artifact and made them fight each other. Otherwise, it would be normal for them to give out 10 million battlefield military merit. Of course, Long Yu also knew that it was too early to come to a conclusion. When the Dragon Wings and Landslide came out, if things went smoothly, he would definitely receive a huge reward. It would be much more than the 5 million army contribution points he had. Long Yu continued to read. The second choice was to give him the qualifications to choose 10 divine rune origins and go to those 10 divine rune origins to comprehend the divine runes. There were also some high-level pills that could increase Long Yu's overall compatibility with the 8 divine runes. Simply put, if the rewards of this choice were all absorbed by Long Yu, it could increase Long Yu's overall combat strength by at least 3 times. But compared to the first choice, the rewards of this choice were much worse. At least for Long Yu, this was because he didn't need to comprehend any other divine runes. He had already begun to comprehend the revelation-level divine rune of the 9 Nether, which was something that couldn't exist in any of the divine rune origins. Moreover, he would definitely try to comprehend the water element power of the Void Nether Dragon Blade. The power of the 5 elements was Long Yu's next goal. Even the divine rune origins weren't too attractive to Long Yu. Of course, the second choice was more attractive to others. This was because in a battlefield legion, if one wanted to use contribution points to exchange for the qualifications to comprehend a divine rune origin, they would need at least 1 million contribution points. The total value far surpassed the first choice. It was just that the second choice was completely useless to Long Yu. As for the third option, it was a relatively more practical reward. It was a batch of cultivation resources, including combat weapons, medicinal pills, martial skills, and even secret martial arts. All of them were added together, a complete package. The total value of all these resources also exceeded 5 million battlefield contribution points. If it was any other ordinary cultivator who chose this reward, their overall strength would increase by more than 10 times. But to Long Yu, it wasn't so important. First, there were the battle weapons. Long Yu had the Void Nether Dragon Blade, which was definitely one of the best battle weapons in the world. Why would he need other battle weapons? Even if it was a top-grade endless rank battle weapon, Long Yu still had the ancient Dragon Bone Tower. Second, there were martial skills. Now that Long Yu had taken in the Vestigial Bone Clan, he could obtain an endless rank martial skill every year, so this wasn't that attractive. Third, there were secret martial arts techniques. Long Yu already knew enough, and they were all top-grade secret martial arts techniques. Even if he obtained the cultivation methods of other secret martial arts techniques, he wouldn't have the time to cultivate them in a short period of time, so he wouldn't be able to improve his combat strength. Chapter 1258. In the end, Long Yu chose the reward of 5 million battlefield army contribution points. There was no doubt that this was a very fair reward. Compared to what Long Yu had done for the Demon Clan battlefield army, it was very normal to have so many battlefield army contribution points. Immediately after, Long Yu expressed to the people around him and asked them to bring the list of items that could be exchanged for with battlefield army contribution points. Soon, Long Yu got the list, which was also recorded in a jade slip. Long Yu immersed his mind into it and checked it. He mainly looked at the special elixirs and cultivation resources. The most important thing was, of course, the creation items in the cultivation resources. Right now, if Long Yu wanted to raise his cultivation, the most important thing was to absorb the power of creation from the items of creation. As long as he absorbed enough power of creation, he would be able to raise his cultivation to the level of a 7th star monarch. Long Yu didn't want to improve too quickly all of a sudden. That would make his foundation unstable, and he wouldn't be able to control his power well enough. It might affect his actual combat ability. So, at this moment, he only wanted to choose some objects of creation that were of a similar level and allow him to improve his cultivation to the 7th star Imperial Monarch realm. Besides that, he wanted some additional objects of creation to absorb the creation energy within them and improve the secret technique of balanced control that he cultivated. Balanced control. This secret technique had been cultivated to the 8th realm by Long Yu. He was only one realm away from advancing to the 9th realm, which was the perfect realm. The highest cultivation of the secret technique was the 9th realm. That would be considered to have reached the next level and would be able to fully unleash the effects of the secret technique. The cultivation of this last realm required a massive amount of creation power. Long Yu wanted to use this opportunity to cultivate balanced control to the 9th realm. He had heard that every secret technique would undergo a qualitative change when it reached the 9th realm. The effect would be at least 10 times better than when it was at the 8th realm. If this secret technique could be cultivated to the 9th realm, Long Yu's concealment ability and spiritual sense perception ability would increase by 10 times. That would definitely be a great improvement for Long Yu. However, Long Yu didn't know how many creation items were needed to cultivate balanced control to the 9th realm. He didn't know. Therefore, he was prepared to use all of his 5 million contribution points to exchange for creations. Anyway, there were plenty of creations in the warehouse of the battlefield army, and he was going to use them for exchange. As for the World Pure Body and the Devil Dust Heart, Long Yu was not in a hurry. He had only cultivated the Devil Dust Heart to the 2nd level. What he needed now was the heaven and earth spiritual chi, not the power of creation. For the time being, the 6th level of the body of Pure World was enough. If he wanted to improve it, he would need to absorb a lot of power of creation. However, the effect of improving this martial arts secret method was not as good as balanced control for Long Yu, at least not for the time being. If there were still some creation items left after reaching the 9th level of balanced control, they could be used to improve the Pure World body. Everything depended on how much creation energy was needed to cultivate balanced control. Of course, Red Oriole had given Long Yu a lot of cultivation resources before. Now, Long Yu had to return some to her. After all, Long Yu wasn't the only one who needed cultivation resources. Red Oriole was now Long Yu's woman, so Long Yu would naturally pay more attention to improving Red Oriole's strength. At the current stage, Red Oriole was much stronger than Long Yu. If the two of them continued to act together, Long Yu would still only be able to support. Therefore, Long Yu wasn't in a hurry to improve his martial arts realm. Instead, he would pay more attention to a functional martial arts secret method like balanced control. Then, Long Yu began to sweep up the goods. From the list, he directly chose to look at the Heaven Crystal level creation items. From low to high, the creation items were divided into Yellowstone, Mystic Jade, Earth Seal, and Heaven Crystal. Among these 4 levels, the Yellowstone level contained the least creation energy. Under the same grade conditions, The Mystic Jade level creation item contained at least 100 times more creation energy than the Yellowstone level. In the same way, the power of creation contained in a Heavenly Crystal grade item was at least 100 times that of an Earth Seal grade item, 10,000 times that of a Mystic Jade grade item, and 1,000,000 times that of a Yellowstone grade item. Therefore, if one had enough battlefield army merit, it would definitely be more cost-effective to exchange for a higher grade one first. A 5th grade Yellowstone rank creation item usually required 100 battle merit points to exchange for, but a 5th grade Sky Crystal rank creation item only required 1,000,000 battle merit points to exchange for. The merit required to exchange for both was 10,000 times different, but the creation energy they contained was 1,000,000 times different. There was no need to say which one was more suitable. There are only so few Heaven Crystal level creation items in the battlefield army? Long Yu checked the list and was a little surprised. He thought that the battlefield army would have a lot of cultivation resources, but he didn't expect to see only 4 Heaven Crystal level creation items on the list. It could be seen how rare Heaven Crystal level creation items were. One had to know that this kind of existence contained a huge amount of creation energy. Even if it was a first stage or second stage dominator, if they absorbed a Heaven Crystal level creation item, they would be able to directly increase their martial Dao realm by 1 level. It could be seen how much creation energy was contained in the Heaven Crystal level creation items. Heaven Crystal level 3, Green Jade Sulfur Stone, 5,000,000 battlefield merit. At a glance, Long Yu saw the Heaven Crystal grade level 3 creation item at the top of the list. It was called the Green Jade Sulfur Stone, and the power of creation contained within it would definitely not disappoint Long Yu. However, if he wanted to exchange for it, he would need 5,000,000 battle merits, which was equivalent to all that Long Yu had obtained this time. If it wasn't for a special event like what Long Yu had encountered, this level of creation item wouldn't have been exchanged for at all. 5,000,000 battlefield merit was a number that even a 7th stage dominator would need to spend 2 to 3 years to obtain. Moreover, it had to be done without any accidents and without spending any merit. Difficult, extremely difficult. Long Yu didn't hesitate and directly chose to exchange for this Green Jade Sulfur Stone. This was because if this kind of item was calculated according to the amount of creation energy it contained, the higher the price, the more worthwhile it would be. If Long Yu divided the 5,000,000 battlefield merit into 10 parts and bought 10 Earth Seal rank creations, the total amount of creation energy they had wouldn't be able to compare to this Green Jade Sulfur Stone. Therefore, this decision was very normal. After Long Yu made his decision, a demon race commander waved his hand and ordered someone to bring the Green Jade Sulfur Stone to Long Yu. Kid, not bad. It seems that Her Highness made the right choice in choosing you. At this time, a 6th stage dominator wearing blood-colored armor walked towards Long Yu. He was actually a vice commander from the blood demon race. You are. Long Yu didn't recognize the other party and didn't feel that it was rude, so he directly asked. My name is Qi Lin. I'm the vice commander of the demon race's battlefield army, and I'm also a member of the blood demon race. The 6th stage dominator laughed and said, Although I'm not related to Her Highness by blood, I've heard of her outstanding martial talent since I was young. I knew that her standards must be very high, but I didn't expect that she would be convinced by you, kid. Ha! I'm not convinced by him. He's the one who's convinced me. Hong Ying giggled as she spoke, causing Long Yu's face to darken. This Princess Blood Demon really didn't give him any face at all. As they spoke, someone quickly escorted the Green Jade Sulfur Stone that Long Yu wanted to exchange for into a special storage ring and handed it to Long Yu. Long Yu spent 5,000,000 battlefield army contribution points to obtain a special seal. Through this special seal, he could open the storage ring that contained the Green Jade Sulfur Stone and obtain the Green Jade Sulfur Stone inside. Therefore, even if the storage ring was robbed along the way, others wouldn't be able to open the storage ring and obtain the green jade sulfur stone inside. This was a method unique to the demon race's battlefield army. This included the storage ring that contained the fierce fire talisman during the escort mission. It was also set up with a similar seal, and people without the seal couldn't open it at all. If the storage ring was forcefully opened, then the storage ring would explode along with the items inside, leaving no benefits behind. Long Yu used the seal to open the storage ring and took out the green jade sulfur stone. Long Yu didn't dare to carry such a valuable item around, so he planned to absorb all the creation items inside and use them to improve himself. However, he obviously couldn't absorb it in public, so the best way was to absorb it in Hong Ying's small world. On one hand, he could deceive others, and on the other hand, it was absolutely safe. In this battlefield fortress, no one would dare to do anything to Hong Ying. Long Yu ran into Hong Ying's small world in a flash and began to prepare to absorb the green jade sulfur stone's creation power. As for Hong Ying and Ma Qianning, they also received a lot of rewards. Among them, Hong Ying also had 3 choices. The first one was 2 million battlefield merit points, which she also chose. The other choices included battle weapons, divine runes, and so on, which were useless to her. Battlefield merit points were the most cost-effective choice. However, Ma Qianning was different. She didn't have a god-grade absolute beginning weapon like Hong Ying and Long Yu did, nor did she cultivate any powerful secret martial arts, let alone unbounded rank martial skills. Therefore, her choice was different from Long Yu and Hong Ying. She chose the third reward, which was a combination of a battle weapon, a martial skill, and a secret martial technique. This reward would greatly increase her strength, and was much better than the first reward, which was 1 million merit points. During the course of the campaign, Long Yu, Hong Ying, and Ma Qianning had all contributed a lot and done a lot of things. Therefore, their rewards were naturally not small. Ma Qianning, who had contributed the least, had received a more generous reward than Lei Han. Chapter 1259. In Hong Ying's small world. Long Yu entered her small world and immediately began to absorb the green jade sulfur. Of course, he mainly used the void nether dragon blade to absorb it. This way, he could absorb 100% of the creation power in the green jade sulfur. If Long Yu were to absorb the green jade sulfur stone by himself or other cultivators, they would lose at least 30% to 40% of the power of creation and waste it. However, Long Yu had the netherworld dragon blade, so it would not be like that. In fact, it was not only Long Yu. Consort Yu and the rest of the 9 ghost tribes should be the same. With the 9 ghost dragon seal, they could absorb the power of any elixir and treasure without any loss. This was the strength of the Jiuyo Dragon Emperor. First, Long Yu let the void nether dragon blade absorb the creation power in the green jade sulfur and then transfer it over bit by bit. Long Yu condensed it in his dantian and gathered it around the 7th natural mystique fruit. Long Yu's 7th mystique was the Path of 9 Ghosts. It could break through any spatial seal and was also a rather useful mystique. It was just that it had not become an emperor mystique before, so it was not particularly outstanding among Long Yu's 7 mystiques. In the past, the Hunter of 9 Ghosts could only be considered an auxiliary mystique. However, after becoming an emperor mystique, it had the ability to move forward in the Genesis 5 elements vortex. This was a metamorphosis. Long Yu was very curious. He wondered what kind of mysterious effect the Path of 9 Ghosts would have if it became an Emperor Mystique. As long as the Path of 9 Ghosts was upgraded to an Emperor Mystique, Long Yu's martial realm would be able to step into the 7-star Emperor realm and reach the peak of the Emperor stage. Although Shao Chun had experienced many things along the way, his progress in the Sovereign Emperor realm had always been orderly. Furthermore, his speed was not slow. This was also because he had the void nether dragon blade, which could completely absorb the energy in cultivation resources. Otherwise, Long Yu would probably be a 3 or 4-star emperor now. It would be impossible for him to reach the threshold of the 7-star Emperor. Once he reached the 7-star Emperor realm, Long Yu's martial realm would be comparable to the human race geniuses he met in the Shenwu world. For example, the beautiful girl Zhuo Banyan of the Lushan clan Hidden Sword Division, Tian-Yi Shuang He of the Lushan clan Tian-Yi Division, etc. When he first met them, they were still 7-star Emperor. And now, Long Yu was about to step into the 7-star Emperor realm. The creation power in the green jade sulfur was absorbed by the void nether dragon blade and then transferred to Long Yu, allowing Long Yu to continuously condense it around the innate mystique fruit of the Path of 9 Ghosts. Then, he used the power of creation to continuously refine the innate mystique fruit, continuously refining it, continuously improving it. Very soon, Long Yu felt the changes. As long as a period of time passed, he would be able to transform it into an Emperor Mystique. It's really fast. As expected of a Heaven Grade 3 creation item, Long Yu couldn't help but sigh. This was the first time he had absorbed a creation item of this level. Very soon, he was shocked by the rich creation power. The creation power within the green jade sulfur stone was not only rich, but it was also extremely condensed and pure. It was much better than the other Yellowstone creations. After consuming about 1/10 of the creation power in the green jade sulfur, Long Yu felt the 7th innate mystique fruit of the Path of 9 Ghosts suddenly transform. It had finally become the 7th Emperor Mystique. At this point, all 7 of Long Yu's innate mystiques had become Emperor Mystique, and the changes that it brought to him gradually appeared. As the Path of 9 Ghosts transformed, Long Yu's entire body's strength was enhanced. This was the increase of his martial realm. Long Yu had finally advanced from the 6th-star sovereign realm to the 7th-star sovereign realm. His basic strength had tripled in an instant. Now, even if he were to face some ordinary lesser sovereigns, he would be able to defeat them without any suspense. Apart from the increase in basic strength, Long Yu's increase in cultivation also brought about an increase in the strength of his physical body. He could feel that his entire body was being quenched and strengthened. Very soon, his physical body was 3 times stronger than before. In addition to some of the body-tempering martial techniques that he had cultivated, if an ordinary 6-star Emperor or 7-star Emperor were to fight against Long Yu, they probably wouldn't be able to hurt Long Yu's physical body. Moreover, Long Yu had also cultivated the martial arts secret technique Devil Dust Heart. After being injured, his recovery speed was many times faster than ordinary people. I actually only used 1/10 of the creation power of the green jade sulfur stone to increase my cultivation realm. As expected of a heaven crystal rank creation item, looks like it's still possible to cultivate this secret technique balanced control to the 9th level. As Long Yu thought to himself, he didn't stop. Instead, he continued to absorb the creation power of the green jade sulfur stone. However, this time, he didn't use it to increase his martial realm. Instead, he used the creation power to improve the martial arts secret technique balanced control. Currently, Long Yu had comprehended the 8th level of balanced control. His spiritual sense and perception were 100 times stronger than cultivators of the same realm. If he could cultivate balanced control to the peak and reach the 9th level, then his spiritual sense and perception would definitely skyrocket again. Every hour, Long Yu would be able to absorb 1/10 of the creation power within the sulfuric green jade stone. It took him 2 hours to break through the martial Dao realm. In the next 18 hours, he had been cultivating the balanced control, comprehending the unique perception power that this secret martial Dao technique had given him. During the cultivation process, Long Yu felt that the flow of power around him had become clearer. He was also able to hide his aura at a deeper level. Gradually, he felt that he could control some of the power between heaven and earth around him. What's going on? Is this the transformation after stepping into the 9th level of balanced control? Long Yu was a little surprised. He began to focus on this. As time passed, he found that he could gradually condense a ray of light in his hand. Although it was a weak light, it had an extremely special effect. It could not be seen now, but once Long Yu truly cultivated balanced control to the 9th level and achieved a qualitative change, the effect of this ray of light would be known to Long Yu. As time passed, the creation power of the green jade sulfur stone was constantly absorbed into Long Yu's body. Then, this secret martial arts technique of balanced control continued to improve. The faint ray of light in Long Yu's hand also became brighter and brighter. 16 hours after Long Yu entered the Red Oriole small world, which meant that Long Yu had been cultivating balanced control for 14 hours, this secret martial arts technique finally underwent a transformation. As the faint ray of light in Long Yu's hand exploded, all the pores on Long Yu's body seemed to open up completely. Moreover, Long Yu's spiritual sense and perception ability had suddenly increased by 10 times. Balanced control. I've finally reached the 9th level. This is a secret martial arts technique at its peak. Sure enough, there will be a transformation. Long Yu's expression was rather excited. He could clearly feel that even though he was in Red Oriole's small world, the range that he could sense with his spiritual sense had suddenly expanded by 10 times. Previously, when the balanced control secret technique had advanced by 1 level, it had increased his spiritual sense perception ability by 2 or 3 times. Now that it had advanced from the 8th level to the 9th level, it had increased his spiritual sense perception ability by 10 times. This was a transformation. Moreover, this was not the full effect of balanced control at its peak. Long Yu stretched out his hand and operated the balanced control secret technique. A bright white ray of light condensed in his hand. Then, this white ray of light exploded and covered Long Yu's entire body. My spiritual sense perception ability has actually increased by 10 times again. A voice in Long Yu's heart told him that this technique was called balanced light. He could use balanced light to enhance anyone's spiritual sense perception ability by 10 times. This was simply a divine technique. Long Yu immediately thought of his cooperation with Red Oriole. Due to the difference in martial arts realm, Long Yu's current spiritual sense perception was definitely not as good as Red Oriole's. However, he could enhance Red Oriole's spiritual sense perception ability by 10 times. In that case, Red Oriole's perception ability would increase exponentially. When she cultivated the balanced control secret technique to its peak, coupled with the effect of the double balanced light, her spiritual sense perception ability would probably reach the level of a demigod. Of course, this was just Long Yu's guess. Moreover, he did not know if the effects of the balanced light could be superimposed by 2 people. If it could not, then it would just be a pipe dream. In any case, Red Oriole still had a long way to go before she could cultivate balanced control to the 9th level. Moreover, this was only a supplementary technique after all. It could not increase her absolute combat ability. It would not be of much use for Red Oriole to cultivate this first. In any case, balanced control was very useful to Long Yu. Although it could only be maintained for a short period of time and consumed a lot of energy, it might be able to save his life at a critical moment. Balanced control has reached the peak. It has transformed, allowing my spiritual sense perception ability to far surpass that of my opponents of the same realm. It is the same for my concealment ability. However, the concealment ability of balanced control is still not as good as the Book of Shadows' nothingness. Long Yu shook his head. It seemed that in the future, he would mainly use the balanced control to strengthen his spiritual sense. Moreover, he would be able to predict his opponent's movements in battle, as well as detect the opponent's offensive or physical weaknesses. These were the most powerful aspects of the balanced control. As for concealment, Long Yu still used it often. However, ever since he became a 5-star emperor, the Book of Shadows could allow him to turn into nothingness. His concealment ability was obviously many times better. Most of the time, he did not need to use balanced control to conceal himself. Of course, both balanced control and the concealment ability of the Book of Shadows had their own pros and cons. If he was facing a strong opponent, he could only use the Book of Shadows to turn into nothingness to avoid the opponent's detection. However, if the opponent was not too strong, he only needed to use balanced control to conceal himself. After all, this would not consume any energy, while turning into nothingness would consume a lot of energy. The concealment effect was different, but at the same time, the amount of energy consumed was also worlds apart. Under different circumstances, Long Yu would have to use different methods. This would depend on himself. Chapter 1260. Long Yu hadn't touched his inner world for a long time. As his martial realm increased, his inner world would naturally expand, but the extent of expansion wasn't very large. If he took the initiative to expand his inner world, the effect would be much better than the automatic expansion of his cultivation. After reaching the 7-star Emperor realm, the main requirement to enter the ruler's secret realm is for my inner world to transform into a small world. In this process, other than comprehending the power of creation, I also need to expand my inner world to a certain extent. Long Yu thought to himself. He thought about what Red Oriole had told him before, then prepared to formulate his own cultivation plan. Right now, Long Yu's inner world had expanded to a radius of 1 billion miles when he stepped into the 7-star Emperor realm. In terms of martial realm, he was still in the Emperor's secret realm. The Emperor's secret realm had a total of 4 stages, from the King realm to the Emperor realm, then the Emperor realm, and finally the Emperor realm. When Long Yu first stepped into the early stage Emperor realm, his inner world had a radius of 100 million miles. When he reached the mid-stage Emperor realm, it would be 200 million miles, and so on. When Long Yu was in the Emperor realm and Emperor realm, his inner world would expand by 100 million miles every time he advanced a realm. When he reached the 7-star Emperor realm, his inner world had a radius of 1 billion miles. If he wanted to transform his inner world into a small world, the minimum requirement was a radius of 10 billion miles. In other words, Long Yu still needed to expand his inner world by 10 times to reach the ruler's secret realm. Since there was no bottleneck between him and the ruler's secret realm, this was the only hard requirement. As long as he expanded his inner world to a radius of 10 billion miles, Long Yu would need to find a treasure to use as his world imprint, and his inner world would naturally transform into a small world. In order to expand his inner world, he needed the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, not the power of creation. However, the power of creation was in existence higher than the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, so it was possible to use the power of creation to expand his inner world. For example, Long Yu still had the last 20% of the green jade sulfur stone's creation power that he had yet to use. It was good enough to expand his inner world. Initially, Huang Xiaolong had wanted to use it to cultivate his pure world physique, but after thinking about it, it was more important for him to enter the sovereign's secret realm as soon as possible. In the end, he decided to use it to expand his inner world. Long Yu did not waste any time and directly sent the remaining power of creation in the green jade sulfur stone into his dantian. His inner world was still concentrated in his dantian. If it was a small world, he would have to find a treasure of heaven and earth as a world imprint. Long Yu still didn't have a world imprint, but of course he wanted to choose something as powerful as possible. That way, it wouldn't be easily destroyed. To be honest, not many people would use the power of creation to expand their inner world because the power of creation was much more precious than the spiritual energy of the world. For ordinary cultivators, the power of creation was used to improve their martial arts realm, cultivate their martial arts secret techniques, and so on. They had to use it everywhere, but it was not enough. How could they be like Long Yu, who had spare power of creation to expand his inner world? Of course, the effect of using the power of creation to expand his inner world was quite good. The green jade sulfur stone was a heavenly crystal grade 3rd grade super creation item. It was unknown how many years it took for it to be formed. Even with only the last 20% of the power of creation, it was still able to rapidly expand Long Yu's inner world. After 2 hours, Long Yu's inner world expanded from a radius of 1 billion miles to 4 billion miles. As a heavenly crystal grade creation item, the power contained in the green jade sulfur stone was not to be underestimated. However, it would slow down a little. As the inner world continued to expand, every time the radius doubled, its volume would expand by 20 to 30 times. This was because the inner world was a sphere. The bigger the sphere, the faster its volume would grow. Therefore, the further it went, the more power of creation would be needed. 4 hours later, Long Yu finally used up the remaining 20% of the power of the green jade sulfur stone on expanding his inner world. He finally expanded his inner world to a radius of 6 billion miles. It seemed that 6 billion miles was not far from 10 billion miles, but in reality, Long Yu calculated that if he were to use the creation item, he would need at least one creation item like the green jade sulfur stone to expand his inner world to a radius of 10 billion miles. Next, it seems that it's better to use the heaven and earth spiritual energy to expand. Of course, if I'm in a hurry, I can continue to use the creation item. At least it will be much faster this way. Long Yu thought to himself. If he used the heaven and earth spiritual energy elixir and used the heaven and earth spiritual energy to expand his inner world, it would take him a day to expand it to a radius of 100 million miles. Of course, the creation item was fast, but in terms of consumption, it was not particularly cost-effective. The green jade sulfur stone that Long Yu had just exchanged for was obviously going to be used up in one go. He did not care much about it. After using it up, he came out of Long Yu's pocket world. As expected, he advanced. Ma Qianning's eyes lit up when she saw Long Yu. This kid had indeed advanced from 6-star Emperor to 7-star Emperor. Furthermore, there seemed to be some other changes to his body that she could not see through. The balanced control secret technique had reached the peak of the 9th level, and it made Long Yu's aura somewhat ethereal. He looked somewhat different. What about you guys? How are things? Long Yu nodded at Red Oriole and Ma Qianning, then asked with a smile. Red Oriole knew Long Yu's situation very well, so she was not surprised by Long Yu's changes. She just smiled and said, "I've saved the 2 million battlefield merit points. There's no need to exchange them for anything for now. When I have more merit points, I'll use them all together. It'll be more cost-effective. I've exchanged for a low-grade unbounded rank martial skill, a low-grade unbounded rank battle weapon, and a secret martial art. It's a defensive secret art. Overall, it's a lot stronger." Ma Qianning also said. She did not hide anything. After all, she was Long Yu and Red Oriole's best friends. "Right, Senior Ma Qianning, I have a question for you." Long Yu suddenly remembered that Ma Qianning was from the Ascetics Alliance, and he was a little curious about her. He asked, "I wonder if you've heard of the name Long Zitian?" Long Zitian. Ma Qianning's expression changed slightly. "I've heard of this name, but this person is very far away from here. How do you know him?" Speaking up to here, Ma Qianning sized up Long Yu and suddenly cried out involuntarily, "Oh right, you're from the human race, you're called Long Yu. Could it be that you have some relationship with Long Zitian? I don't know if the Long Zitian you're talking about is him. But if he is, then I'm his son." Long Yu said in a deep voice, "Senior, please tell me about him." "Yes, let's sit on the side and talk. Right now, everyone is waiting for the demigod lords to finish their battle. There's nothing to do for now." Ma Qianning nodded, and then walked to the independent room on the side with Red Oriole and Long Yu. Long Yu originally wanted to ask the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor. After all, the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor definitely knew where his father had gone. but since Ma Qianning also knew, he might as well ask her directly. Speaking of which, the relationship between Long Yu and Ma Qianning seemed to be better than that between him and the heavenly prison Thunder Emperor. After all, they had gone through life and death together, and faced demigod aliens together. This kind of relationship was not something that could be compared to in a competition of the strongest emperor realm. Very soon, Ma Qianning told Long Yu about Long Zitian. After hearing this news, Long Yu immediately fell into deep thought. As Ma Qianning said, Long Zitian was also a member of the Ascetic Alliance, and he was the great leader of one of the regions of the Ascetic Alliance located in the human territory. That region governed the regions of several galaxy clans. Of course, it only governed the Ascetic Alliance within that region. But even so, it was still a very powerful existence. That region did not include the Lushan clan and the Jiryo clan, but another region in the human territory. If that Long Zitian was Long Yu's father, it was really a surprise to Long Yu. He did not expect his father to reach this point. Once upon a time, when Long Yu was on the divine battle world on the heavenly Mandate Island, he thought that Long Zitian was already dead. It was not until he met the heavenly prison Thunder Emperor and asked that he realized that Long Zitian was probably still alive. But he did not expect the current situation. But then, a new problem arose. If Long Zitian was so powerful, and he was the great leader of one of the regions of the Ascetic Alliance, why did he not go back to the Geo realm? After all, back then, Long Yu and his mother did not have an easy time on the heavenly Mandate Island. Long Yu was left in the care of Feng Chang'e, but his mother, Bei Yuyao, had been suffering in the Northern Academy of the heavenly Mandate Island. She was always thinking about Long Zitian, but she could not see him. Could it be that after Long Zitian came out of the outer sky world and became strong and powerful, he forgot about Long Yu and Bei Yuyao? That was simply impossible. No matter what, Long Yu had to make a trip to see Long Zitian. Whether it was for himself or for his mother, he had to see Long Zitian. As for what would happen after he saw Long Zitian, that was another matter. After all, I am not a human, and I am not under the jurisdiction of Long Zitian. In the Ascetic Alliance, the management of different regions is separated, so even I can't help you contact the leader of Long Zitian, Ma Qianning suggested. Ma Qianning suggested, but if you ask the leader of the White Territory, he might have a way. He's one of the leaders of the Ascetic Alliance in the Demon Territory. They should be able to talk to each other. There is no hurry. Why don't you tell me about the situation of the Ascetic Alliance first? Chapter 1261. After listening to Ma Qianning's explanation of the Ascetic Alliance, Long Yu finally had a more systematic understanding of the organization. Even Red Oriole wasn't very familiar with the organization in the past. Now that she heard Ma Qianning's explanation, she finally had a better understanding of it. The Ascetic Alliance had over 10,000 years of history. It was one of the more influential organizations in the alliance between the human race and the demon race. Both the human race and the demon race could choose to join. The purpose of the alliance was to increase the overall combat strength of its members through various forms of ascetic training. Generally speaking, the members of the Ascetic Alliance would be much stronger than other cultivators of the same realm. For example, although Ma Qianning was only at the first phase Great Ruler realm, if she were to fight against other ordinary first phase Great Rulers, her combat strength would definitely be much stronger than her opponent. An easy victory was inevitable. In fact, because of the many ascetic training experiences in the Ascetic Alliance, some of the members' combat strength far surpassed other cultivators of the same realm. Some first-phase Great Rulers could fight above their realm against third-phase Great Rulers. Not only would they not be at a disadvantage, but they would even have a slight advantage. Once they became second-phase Great Rulers, they could directly challenge fourth-phase Great Rulers. Fighting above their realm was nothing difficult. One had to know that this was already second only to Red Oriole. Right now, Red Oriole was at the first phase Great Ruler realm. If she were to fight against an ordinary third phase Great Ruler, she might be able to win, but it would take some effort. As for Red Oriole, what kind of talent did she have? From the day she was born, she had obtained the absolute beginning divine bloodline. Now, she had already awakened the absolute beginning divine bloodline's 6 wings to the 8th rank. She had also innately cultivated a powerful martial secret technique passed down by the blood demon race. With such conditions, Red Oriole was only slightly stronger than some of the more experienced members of the Ascetic Alliance. From this, it could be seen that the ascetic training of the Ascetic Alliance was quite effective. For cultivators who didn't have many cultivation resources or were born in poor conditions, the ascetic training would definitely increase their overall combat strength. The main purpose of the Ascetic Walker Union was to provide powerful forces for the non-humankind battlefields, including the battles between the Yao clan and the Human clan. Many powerful warriors of the Ascetic Walker Union had been serving on the non-humankind battlefields, stopping the powerful enemies from the non-humankind, and had made great contributions. For example, the task of transporting the fierce fire symbols was handed over to a team of 200 people from the Ascetic Alliance. If the Ice God clan hadn't used some extreme methods, Bai Yu and the others would have easily completed this escort mission. This time, the Ice God clan had not only created the spacetime tunnel, but they had also sent over 1,000 miscellaneous troops to scout the way. Later on, the ruler army had even stationed themselves there. Under these circumstances, it was indeed very difficult for Bai Yu and his small team of 200 people to complete the escort mission alone. This was something that could not be helped. However, if it was some other ordinary battlefield army mission that was handed to the Ascetic Alliance, the success rate would be at least 80%. This was an incredible number. It should be known that the average success rate of ordinary battlefield army mercenaries in completing battlefield army missions was less than 50%. Even some of the regular soldiers in the battlefield army would only have a success rate of around 80% when accepting certain missions, which was not much different from the Ascetic Walker Union. It could be seen that the overall combat strength of the members of the Ascetic Walker Union was second to none. This could be seen just by looking at Ma Qianing. In this mission, Ma Qianing had brought great convenience to Long Yu. The main reason was that the secret martial arts technique that transmitted power could be used to support others in the team and increase their combat strength. Moreover, Ma Qianing was a white horse Yao cultivator who was proficient in scouting. In team battles, she could play a rather special role. With her existence, it was almost a piece of cake to complete some ordinary battlefield army missions, unless there were some major accidents that could lead to failure. Don't underestimate accidents on the battlefield of the outsiders. In general, almost every battlefield army mission would have accidents. The only difference would be the size of the accident. On the battlefield of the outsiders, there were simply too many accidents, too many to count. No one would be able to predict them. After all, this was a chaotic area where fish and dragons mixed together and countless races fought each other. The way the Ascetic Walker Union recruited members was also different from normal organizations. Instead of having members sign up, the Ascetic Walker Union's members would travel around and find young cultivators with strong willpower. This was the most common way for members of the Ascetic Walker Union to train before they stepped into the Great Ruler realm. From Ma Qianing's explanation, Long Yu found out that the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor was training in Shen Wu World. At the same time, he was helping the Ascetic Walker Union find new members and introduce them to the Ascetic Walker Union. At the time, Long Yu couldn't tell that the Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor was hiding his identity and cultivation. However, a ruler realm cultivator was enough to trample over everything in Shen Wu World at the time. If he wanted to hide his strength, no one would be able to find out, including the 5 emperors. As for the Long Zai Tian that Long Yu asked about, Ma Qianning remembered that he was the great leader responsible for recruiting members and daily affairs, managing 4 to 5 galaxies in the human territory. Regarding the ascetic alliance, Ma Qianning only said this much. But regarding Long Zai Tian, Ma Qianning didn't particularly understand him. It was only because she was part of the ascetic alliance that she needed to have a little understanding of each of the great leaders. That was why she had heard of Long Zai Tian's name. Long Yu then asked about the Sufferer Union. Unfortunately, even Ma Qianning didn't know much about this union. She only knew that the Sufferer Union was different from the Ascetic Walker Union. It was an organization of powerful alchemists from different races. The Ascetic Walker Union was just an organization in the alliance between the human race and the demon race. On the other hand, the Sufferers Alliance was spread all over the Beyond Heavens world. For a long time, no members of the Sufferers Alliance had come near the territories of the Demon Tribe and the Human Tribe. Even some members of the Human Tribe and the Demon Tribe who had joined the Sufferers Alliance had not returned. However, there was one thing that was worth noting, which was that if the members of the Sufferers Alliance came to the human race or the demon race's territory, they would be respected as much as the demigods, because they were much better at making pills than any other alchemists. And the most important thing was that the members of the Alliance of Sufferers could refine pills that could be taken by any race. This alone surpassed most of the other alchemists. Ordinary alchemists of the human clan and the demon clan could not do this at all. Although there was only a difference of one word, the Ascetic Walker Union was more than one level lower than the Sufferer Union. Of course, the Sufferer Union's level was too high, ordinary people could not reach it. In the human race and demon race territory, the Ascetic Walker Union was also a very influential organization. After understanding all this, Long Yu nodded his head and said to Ma Qianning, "Thank you, Senior, for dispelling my doubts. Since it's like this, I'll go ask Senior Bai Yu first and see if he knows more about Long Zai Tian." Long Yu was not sure if the Long Zai Tian Ma Qianning mentioned was his father, so he did not directly call him father, but only called him by his name. "Okay, let's go together. They should be waiting in the mission hall now." Ma Qianning nodded and got up to follow Long Yu and Red Oriole. Battlecruiser Fortress, Mission Hall. Bai Yu, Lei Han, Heavenly Prison Thunder Emperor and the others had been waiting here for a long time. They were all waiting for Long Yu to come out alive. Not long ago, the news that Red Oriole had escaped from the space-time tunnel surprised them. Because Red Oriole had come out with Long Yu, many people had seen it. But the news that came later was that Long Yu had actually returned to the space-time tunnel that was about to disappear. Hearing this news, countless people were confused. He had already escaped, so why would he go back? Although everyone was happy that Long Yu was still alive, they could not understand why he had returned to seek his own death. Finally, one day ago, the news of Long Yu's safe return was spread. At the same time, the arrival of the demigod lord of the demon race and the confirmation of the appearance of demigod aliens were also spread. This made all of them overjoyed, including Lei Han. They were all pleasantly surprised. They had never thought that Long Yu could enter and exit the space-time tunnel so many times and still survive in such a desperate situation. Long Yu truly deserved to be Long Yu and the man that the princess of the Blood Demon clan had taken a liking to. Especially the last time. Countless people were shocked by Long Yu's actions. Furthermore, they were constantly discussing what method Long Yu had used to escape from the space-time passageway that had already disappeared. Logically speaking, after the space-time tunnel disappeared, there should only be a storm of the primordial 5 elements left inside. The first question was how Long Yu had survived in such an environment. The second question was how a mere 6-star emperor could have broken the space-time barrier and escaped. It was said that when Long Yu escaped from the space-time tunnel, someone had seen a demigod alien, which made many people speculate that it was the demigod alien who had helped Long Yu break the space-time barrier. If there was really a demigod alien inside, how could Long Yu have survived? Everything was shrouded in mystery. Nobody could figure out the truth. They could not even come up with a single possibility, because such a thing could never have happened in their knowledge. Thankfully, nobody on the battlefield suspected Long Yu. They planned to wait until the demigod of the demon race returned before they listened to the arrangement of the demigod demon race. Dragon Wing and Landslide, the two demigods of the demon race, had already sent a message to the battlefield, forbidding everybody to act recklessly. They also asked them to give the rewards to Long Yu and his companions directly and wait until everything was over. Chapter 1262. Very soon, Long Yu and the other two arrived at the mission hall of the battlecruiser fortress. The moment the three of them appeared, it immediately caused a commotion in the mission hall. Not just by Yu, Lei Han, and the Heavenly Thunder Emperor, all the cultivators in the mission hall looked at the three of them. There was no other reason than that Long Yu and Red Oriole's fame was too resounding throughout the entire battlecruiser fortress. Almost everyone knew of them. During this time, everyone on the battlecruiser fortress was focused on the matter of the spacetime tunnel. Long Yu's performance was without a doubt the most eye-catching in this matter. Of course, Long Yu had nothing to do with the main battle, but the key was that Long Yu was still alive after the demigod aliens appeared and detonated the legendary primordial furnace, making the spacetime tunnel disappear in advance. Also, Red Oriole came back in time to deliver the message to the demigods of the demon race. As a result, the two demigods, Dragon Wing and Landslide, arrived and stopped the alien demigods from invading the demon race's territory. The previous battles didn't have much to do with Long Yu and Red Oriole, but after the appearance of the alien demigods, only Long Yu and the other two had performed well, and with astonishing performances at that. That was why they were able to maintain the current situation. Otherwise, the three alien demigods would have come out of the space-time channel and invaded the three extraterrestrial galaxies. None of the people on the spot could have stopped them for 1 second. Haha, Brother Long, I always thought that you wouldn't die so easily. Now that you're back, congratulations. You've made a great contribution. Lei Han laughed heartily as he walked towards Long Yu. He patted Long Yu's shoulder and said, as expected of the man that Her Highness of the Blood Demon Clan has taken a liking to. You have some skills, and this is only at the 6-star Monarch realm. When you step into the Sovereign Secret Realm, or even the Sovereign Realm, you will definitely become a big shot in the human and demonic beast territories. You flatter me, Senior. I was just lucky and had the help of Senior Red Oriole and Ma Qianing. Otherwise, I would have died in that chaotic space a long time ago. Long Yu shook his head and said modestly. He couldn't expose too many things in front of so many people, so he could only say that. Also, it was true that neither Red Oriole nor Ma Qianing were missing. You can't do that with luck alone. If it were me, I would have been killed by the alien demigods a long time ago. Ha! Lei Han laughed heartily, then waved his hand, beckoning the others to come over. He then said to Long Yu, since you're back, it's time to give you the reward you deserve. All of us have only received half of the battle merit point. The remaining half will be given to you when you return. Although it's not much, it's still a token of our appreciation. Please accept it. Long Yu was quite shocked to hear that. How could there be such a good thing? He looked around and saw that most of the people beside Lei Han were mercenaries that followed Lei Han to the battlefield. Among them, Long Yu was familiar with most of them. For example, Tian Tsang of the Heavenly Wings clan, Hai Shu of the Sea Wings clan, as well as the Purple Heavenly Wolf and Black Flood Dragon demonic cultivators that he had seen before. A group of people surrounded Long Yu, congratulating him and thanking Long Yu. Those people had also benefited a lot from Long Yu. After the escort mission and the battle in the spacetime tunnel, they thought very highly of Long Yu. Of course, the deeper reason was that they wanted to build a good relationship with Long Yu. After all, with everything that Long Yu had shown so far, and the fact that he was the man that Red Oriole liked, It was inevitable that he would rise in the future. There was no harm in building a good relationship with him earlier. If they waited until Long Yu's cultivation rose in the future, they might not even have the chance to build a good relationship with Long Yu. Of course, Long Yu wouldn't reject these battle contribution points that were delivered to his doorstep. After all, no one would complain about having too many cultivation resources. However, Long Yu was also grateful to these people from the bottom of his heart. Including the 500,000 battle contribution points that Lei Han had given him, Long Yu received a total of 1,040,000 battle contribution points. It could be said to be a very generous reward. With so many rewards, he could exchange them for some high-quality pills that would allow Long Yu to try breaking through to the ruler's secret realm. Of course, this breakthrough referred to expanding his inner world to a radius of 10 billion miles. Even if he succeeded, Long Yu didn't plan to break through to the ruler's secret realm immediately. He still hadn't found a suitable world mark to place in his little world. Long Yu wasn't willing to just randomly find a world mark. He definitely needed the strongest material to make a world mark. He could search the warehouse of the battlecruiser to see if there were any suitable materials. Many thanks to everyone, this Long Yu would be dissatisfied if he just randomly found a world mark. After receiving the battle contribution points, Long Yu cupped his fists to show his goodwill to everyone. At this time, Long Yu suddenly saw an unfriendly gaze from the corner of his eyes. It came from a handsome young man at the edge of the mission hall. That person was the Divine Wood Demonic Race's Han Hen. This guy already disliked Long Yu when he was in the same group as Long Yu. It was the same even now. Moreover, he didn't have the face to curry favor with Long Yu. Naturally, Long Yu couldn't be bothered to pay attention to this guy. He didn't offend him from start to finish. He also didn't know why this young man disliked him so much. Very quickly, the great leader of the Ascetic Alliance, Bai Yu, also led many members of the Ascetic Alliance over. These people were all experts who had fought against the Ice God clan in the spacetime tunnel. They had experienced the fusion of iron and blood. Leader Bai, when I was captured by the alien race in the spacetime tunnel, it was little brother Long Yu who saved me. Ma Qianning took a step forward and said to Bai Yu. Bai Yu was stunned for a moment before laughing. Not bad, not bad. So that's how it is. Not only did you resolve the crisis of the demonic race, you also saved Qianning. Not bad, kid. Bai Yu already had a whole new level of respect for Long Yu. Now, he felt that it was even more unbelievable. If Long Yu detonated the absolute beginning furnace, passed through the absolute beginning 5 elements energy whirlpool, and stalled the alien race demigod, it could be said that it was a coincidence or some special technique. But saving Ma Qianning from the Ice God race was definitely not luck. The Ice God clan's experts who could capture Ma Qianning were at least experts in the sovereign secret realm. Since Long Yu had managed to rescue Ma Qianning from the hands of a sovereign secret realm expert, it meant that he had the strength to escape from under the noses of a sovereign secret realm expert. As a mere 6-star Imperial Monarch he was now a 7th-star Imperial Monarch. Such ability was truly too rare. This made Bai Yu not dare to underestimate Long Yu. At the very least, he saw Long Yu as an existence on the same level as himself. Although his strength was many times stronger than Long Yu, he was interested in Long Yu's potential. Long Yu was only in the Emperor realm, but he had already displayed such heaven-defying comprehensive strength. It was clear that when his cultivation increased, he would be even more amazing. Since that's the case, I'll personally give you a small gift. Consider it a thank you for saving Qianning. Bai Yu smiled faintly, then waved his hand, took out a jade slip, and threw it to Long Yu. Long Yu reached out to catch it, and immersed his consciousness into the jade slip. To his surprise, there was a mid-grade unbounded martial skill recorded inside. This martial skill was a sword technique that could only be cultivated by humans. Since it was given by Bai Yu, it was definitely very powerful. Its name was Proud Radiance Sword Art. Long Yu didn't practice swordsmanship, but there were some among his friends. The most typical example was Gu Yixian, who was already very proficient in swordsmanship. Later on, he even learned 2 secret martial arts that could increase the power and speed of his swordsmanship. Other than his martial arts realm not being too high, his swordsmanship had already reached the point of perfection. The Tsanghua secret sword and the Cyan Civ secret sword were the treasures of the White Feather monstrous clan. However, Qingfeng and Tianlei had long since joined Gu Yixian, Qihua, and Man Xen. As such, it was only natural that they taught Gu Yixian the 2-sword technique. If Gu Yixian had the proud radiance sword art, and cultivated it to at least the peak or full circle level, the power of his sword would definitely surpass that of Long Yu's ordinary techniques. What did he mean by Long Yu's ordinary techniques? Other than his trump cards, Long Yu had a few trump cards up his sleeve. One was the Void Underworld Dragon Dagger. The second was the Ancient Dragonbone Pagoda, the third was Dragon Emperor 9 Nether's Innate Mystique, and the fourth was the Forbidden Skill of the Ancient Gods, the Deadly Hell of 4 Faces. These 4 were Long Yu's strongest aspects, but Long Yu's other techniques definitely couldn't compare to Gu Yixian, who cultivated the Proud Radiance sword art. Gu Yixian's cultivation base wasn't much lower than Long Yu's. By the time Long Yu returned to planet Shui Luo and saw Gu Yixian again, Gu Yixian would most likely be a 4-star emperor, or even a 5-star emperor. It seems there's no lack of geniuses among the people around me. It's just that I've always overshadowed them. As Long Yu thought to himself, he couldn't help but feel a little proud of himself. On the other hand, he was also proud of Gu Yixian and the others. Even without him, Long Yu, they would still be able to do very well. Of course, everyone's foundation had been built by Long Yu. And now that Long Yu had acquired the Proud Radiance sword art, he would definitely give it to Gu Yixian. Therefore, no matter what their future accomplishments were, they were all inseparable from Long Yu. Furthermore, they were all loyal people, and had already formed a strong team. Long Yu didn't refuse Bai Yu's gift, as it was very useful to him. After all, it was a mid-grade unbounded sword art. Even in the army's storehouse, it would cost at least 2 million merit points. Even I can only cultivate the Proud Radiance sword art to the transcendent level, Bai Yu said. Therefore, the cultivation method recorded in this jade slip is limited to the transcendent level. Once you're in the transcendent level, we can discuss and compare notes on how to reach the transcendent level. Chapter 1263. Long Yu was flattered. Bai Yu wanted to spar and discuss with him? He would have to wait for far too long. Although Long Yu had advanced by 1 level, he was still only a 7th-star monarch. Bai Yu, on the other hand, was already a 5th-stage great ruler. The difference between the two could be described as the difference between clouds and mud. How would I dare to spar with you, senior? But I don't cultivate sword techniques, and I don't have any sword-type weapons. I'm afraid I won't be able to cultivate the Proud Light sword technique by myself. Can I give it to my good friend? Long Yu said with a light laugh. It's already yours. What you do with it has nothing to do with me. Bai Yu nodded and did not object. Everyone chatted and laughed, and soon exchanged what had happened. Everyone knew what Long Yu and the others had experienced, and they were immediately amazed. Facing 3 demigod aliens, Long Yu could still be so calm and composed, and come up with such a 1-in-a-million method of escape. It was truly admirable. Not to mention that Long Yu had actually returned to the spatial passageway that had vanished in the end, and it was all for the sake of rescuing that combat weapon of his. This sort of spirit caused many people in the surroundings to feel deep veneration for him. At this time, Long Yu finally told them about the relic of the foreign god race. By chance, I acquired the relic from the birth of the Ice God clan. So, with the relic, I made a demigod of the Ice God clan and a demigod of the Desolate God clan fight each other. Then, I tricked the other demigod of the Ice God clan into opening the space-time channel, Everyone present could not believe what he had experienced. Wasn't this kid a little too bold? Fortunately, he had succeeded, otherwise, wouldn't he have killed himself? How can you be so sure that you can succeed? Someone couldn't help but ask. I'm not sure, but my intuition tells me that I should do it. Otherwise, if this weapon of mine is taken away, I'll probably regret it for the rest of my life. Long Yu shook his head and said, not only was Su Ke the first self-consciousness that was born from a perfect weapon, but it was also related to whether he could completely absorb the power contained in the pills and creations. Also, it was a gift from Consort Yu. No matter if it was from his feelings or his future on the path of the martial Tao, it was impossible for Long Yu to give up. So, in the end, he'd considered it for a long time before he decided to return and try to bring the Nethervoid Dragon Dagger back. After all, when the demigods of the demon race returned, it was impossible to keep the holy item a secret. It would be exposed sooner or later. It was not a big deal for Long Yu to tell it now. Very quickly, everyone finally quietened down. Long Yu, on the other hand, found the heavenly prison Thunder Emperor and Bai Yu alone. Senior Thunder Emperor, Senior Bai Yu, there's something I'd like to ask you. Just now, Senior Ma Qianing told me that there's a great leader called Long Zai Tian in the branch of the Ascetic Walker Alliance in the human territory. Is this person from the Netherworld realm? When Long Yu asked this question, he kept staring at the heavenly prison Thunder Emperor. Because the heavenly prison Thunder Emperor had been to the Netherworld realm, he seemed to know a lot about it. Moreover, he seemed to have known about Long Zai Tian since a long time ago. Long Zai Tian, I haven't had any communication with this great leader, so I don't know much about him. Hearing this, Bai Yu frowned slightly. Leader Bai Yu has been fighting against the foreign races in the outer regions of the demon race for nearly 100 years, so it's normal that you don't know much about him. However, a few years ago, I trained near the Netherworld realm for a period of time. The heavenly prison Thunder Emperor took over and said in a deep voice, I was also fortunate enough to meet leader Long Zai Tian. I've heard rumors that he indeed came from the Netherworld realm and gradually rose to power. However, it seems that no one has ever mentioned anything about his past. Is that so? Can we contact him now? Long Yu asked with some anticipation. The distance is too far, so it's impossible to contact him. However, I can use the internal information of the Ascetic Walker Alliance to inquire about his recent situation. Do you need it? Bai Yu asked. Then I'll have to trouble Senior. Of course Long Yu needed it, and he needed it very much. Immediately after, Bai Yu went to investigate and quickly returned. He nodded to Long Yu and said, I've found it. It turns out that in the past 2 years, leader Long Zai Tian has not been in the human race's territory. Instead, he has been transferred to the direction of the foreign race's battlefield and has become a commander there. Commander! These words caused Long Yu to be somewhat shocked. Even he knew that no matter if it was the human race or the demon race, the commander of the foreign race's battlefield had to be a powerhouse at the 7th stage of the sovereign realm. In other words, Long Zai Tian had already stepped into the 7th stage of the sovereign realm? He's actually this powerful, Long Yu couldn't help but sigh. It had only been 20 years since Long Zai Tian had disappeared on Divine Battle World's Heavenly Mandate Island. He had actually directly stepped into the peak of the martial path and was only a step away from becoming a demigod. This speed could be said to be 1 in 100 million. It has to be known that a powerhouse like Bai Yu was already a first-stage sovereign 100 years ago. Now that 100 years had passed, he was only a 5th-stage sovereign. How difficult was it to raise one's martial path realm at the sovereign realm stage? That Long Zai Tian had actually only spent 20 years to become a 7th-stage sovereign. It could be said to be shocking to the world. On the human race's side, leader Long Zai Tian seems to be a legend. Unfortunately, the distance between the demon race and the human race's battlefield is too far. Even if you continuously use the time-space imprints teleportation array, it would still take several months to arrive. Bai Yu shook his head, then said to Long Yu, "Little brother Long, if you want to see Long Zai Tian, I'm afraid you won't be able to do so in a short period of time." "And I understand." Long Yu nodded, remembering Bai Yu's words in his heart. After that, there was nothing else for everyone to do. The others dispersed, still discussing matters regarding Long Yu and demigods. Meanwhile, Long Yu and Red Oriole, left by themselves, found a room next to the mission hall, and prepared to slowly wait. This time, the demon race demigod and the foreign race demigod would most likely not be determined in a short period of time. This period of time Long Yu did not want to waste. He had just obtained a little more than 1,000,000 extra contribution points from the battlefield. He planned to use them to exchange for some top-quality medicinal pills and absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth within them to expand his inner world. In any case, Long Yu had the Devil Dust Heart, a martial arts secret technique. The same type of medicinal pill could be completely absorbed without the slightest bit of medicinal energy being wasted. Therefore, when using this method, Long Yu had a much greater advantage than the others. As for Red Oriole, after hearing that Long Yu had improved balanced control to the peak of the 9th level and mastered the means of balanced light, she also planned to improve this martial arts secret technique. Balanced control had many uses in the first place. Red Oriole had always kept it at the 3rd level because she did not have much time before, but now that she had the time, she could try to improve it. She did not use the 2,000,000 contribution points to exchange for any creation items. Instead, she directly took out some from the small world. Some of these creation items were what she had kept before, and some were just given to her by Lei Han. Before the demigod appeared, in a series of battles, Lei Han had led the crowd to defeat wave after wave of experts of the Ice God clan and looted the things that the experts of the Ice God clan had, including a large number of creation items. Although the level of these creation items was not very high, there were a lot of them. In addition, they had also obtained a lot of debris of small worlds and the remains of some weapons. They were all not bad things. Speaking of which, Red Oriole still had the debris of the small worlds that she had obtained from the Demon Saint's tomb. She and Long Yu had not had the time to check if there were any good things in them. However, the two of them did not have high expectations. Even if there were good things, after such a long time, they would definitely have decayed. Just like the debris of the small worlds of the Sufferers that Long Yu had entered before, many things were already gone. Let's cultivate for a few days first. Then, let's search through the debris of these small worlds. Maybe there will be some unexpected gains. Long Yu discussed with Red Oriole and decided to cultivate for a while first. With the 1,000,000 contribution points, Long Yu exchanged for 12 identical high-quality endless-level pills in the army warehouse. Azure Lotus Cleansing Fire Pill was already the best pill among them. 100,000 contribution points could exchange for one pill. After exchanging for 12 pills, Long Yu's contribution points were emptied once again. Very soon, he obtained the 12 Azure Lotus Cleansing Fire Pills. The army member who delivered the pills sized up Long Yu suspiciously. Perhaps he felt that Long Yu was a little strange. How could one person exchange for so many identical pills? Of course, he did not know that Long Yu had the Devil Dust Heart. As long as he reconstructed his body, he would be able to absorb all the effects of the same pills repeatedly. If that was not the case, even if Long Yu wanted to exchange all of his 1,000,000 contribution points for cultivation pills, he would not have been able to exchange for so many. After all, in the entire army warehouse, the Azure Lotus Cleansing Fire Pill was the most cost-effective. If he exchanged for anything else, the effects would be much weaker. After obtaining the pills, Long Yu did not hesitate. He directly entered Red Oriole's small world and began to absorb the heaven and earth spiritual energy in the Azure Lotus Cleansing Fire Pill. The heaven and earth spiritual energy was used by Long Yu to expand his inner world, and the effects were not bad. Long Yu's inner world had already reached a circumference of 6 billion kilometers. After taking the first Azure Lotus cleansing fire pill, it took him a full day to completely digest the heaven and earth spiritual energy and expand his inner world to a circumference of 8 billion kilometers. The effects were not bad, but it was too time-consuming, Long Yu thought to himself. Sure enough, it was still faster to absorb the power of creation to expand his inner world. Unfortunately, the cost-effectiveness was a little too low, one could not have it both ways. Long Yu accepted this fact. In any case, he was much better off than other cultivators. Ordinary cultivators had no choice. Whether it was medicinal pills or creation items, they had to use them. Others were not afraid of wasting time, but of not having enough cultivation resources. But now, Long Yu had too many cultivation resources, so he felt that it was a waste of time. Chapter 1264. 3 days passed. According to people's speculation, if the 2 demigods of the demon race didn't show up in 3 days, it would take at least half a month for them to come out. That was because 3 days were enough for the space-time barrier to be completely repaired. Even if the 2 demigods joined hands, it would still take a long time to break the space-time barrier again. But now 3 days had passed, and neither Dragon Wings nor Landslide returned, which cast a shadow over everybody in the battlecruiser fortress. Long Yu was somewhat worried, too, but he was soon reassured, because he believed that the demigods of the demon race wouldn't be weaker than the demigods of the alien races. Besides, the situation was already very clear when he left. The demigods of the Desolate God clan and the demigods of the Ice God clan couldn't be reconciled because of the relic of the Ice God clan. It meant that 2 demigods of alien races had been stalled. If Dragon Wings and Landslide still couldn't defeat them, the entire demon race would have to prepare to surrender and say goodbye to this world. Long Yu was optimistic about what would happen if he stayed, so he wasn't too worried. While everybody was waiting anxiously, Long Yu was absorbing the natural spiritual energy of the Azure Lotus cleansing fire pill leisurely and expanding his inner world. It would take him almost a day to absorb the natural spiritual energy of 1 Azure Lotus cleansing fire pill. Then, he would have to detonate his body and rebuild it with the Devil Dust's heart. Only then could he take the Azure Lotus cleansing fire pill again and completely absorb the medicinal power inside. It was the first time for Red Oriole to see such an approach. She was shocked on the spot. Seeing Long Yu detonate himself, Red Oriole was quite shocked. What's wrong with this guy? But soon, she discovered that it only took Long Yu only 1 day to completely regenerate his body. It must be noted that Long Yu's self-detonation was complete. Not even the slightest part of his body was left. In that case, if Long Yu was injured, wouldn't he be able to recover in the blink of an eye? If Long Yu hadn't revealed some information about the Devil Dust's heart to Red Oriole, she would have been panicking when Long Yu detonated himself. Luckily, a day had passed. Seeing that Long Yu's body was rebuilt, she gradually let out a sigh of relief. This guy is really worrisome, Red Oriole was panicked, but she was finally reassured and focused on improving her control of the martial arts secret technique. Following that, Long Yu began to repeat the same actions. Eventually, he became more and more proficient at it. Be it absorbing the Azure Lotus Clear Fire pill or reconstructing his physical body, he only needed half a day to complete them. With regards to medicinal pills, the more times Long Yu used them, the more familiar he became with them. Naturally, he could absorb them faster and faster. As for reconstructing the fleshly body, this was also something that he needed to be proficient in. As Long Yu reconstructed his fleshly body more and more times, his proficiency level also became higher and higher. Although the Devil Dust Heart's realm of this martial arts secret technique did not increase, it still allowed him to reduce the time needed to reconstruct his fleshly body by half. And during this process, Long Yu's inner world expanded continuously. From the initial 6 billion miles, it grew to 9,800,000,000 miles in 10 days. At this time, Long Yu finally finished absorbing all 12 Azure Lotus cleansing fire pills and rebuilt his body 11 times. His proficiency level with the Devil Dust's heart had increased by a lot. Long Yu was only 200 million miles away from breaking through to the ruler's secret realm's requirement of 10 billion miles. If he wanted to step into the ruler's secret realm, it would be a piece of cake. However, he hadn't found anything suitable to become a world imprint. Therefore, he wasn't as anxious as before. If I can use the 9 underworld steel as a world imprint, that would be heaven-defying. If I hide in a small world, no one will be able to do anything to me, Long Yu thought to himself. However, he still shook his head with a bitter smile. First, he didn't know what the 9 underworld steel was. Second, he didn't know if the 9 underworld steel could be used as a world imprint. However, Red Oriole was a little surprised when she heard Long Yu's idea. Her eyes shone brightly. I think there shouldn't be a problem. Why don't you give it a try when you go back? If you can refine the 9 underworld steel into a world imprint, you'll be heaven-defying. However, the 9 underworld steel seems to have some emotions. Otherwise, it wouldn't have exploded when it was attacked. Therefore, you can go back and give it a try. If it doesn't work, then forget it. I'm just afraid of danger. I'm afraid of danger. After all, I'm not familiar with the 9 underworld steel. I want to refine it into a world imprint. If it suddenly explodes, I'll be dead. Long Yu said. You can try to break through to the ruler's secret realm inside the 9 underworld steel. That way, even if the 9 underworld steel explodes, it won't be able to hurt you. However, you can't do it on the Bloody Fall planet. If the 9 underworld steel explodes, the entire planet will be gone. Red Oriole covered her mouth and laughed. And it's worth a try. After all, there's no reward without risk. After thinking for a long time, Long Yu finally nodded his head. If he could really make the 9 underworld steel into his world imprint, he could be said to be invincible in the future. Even if he encountered a demigod, the other party might not be able to do anything to him. Of course, this was only an ideal situation. As for what the actual situation would be like, he could only find out after giving it a try. 10 days later, the demigod of the demon race still hadn't returned. However, some demon cultivators who were scouting nearby felt that the space barrier nearby seemed to be loosening. There should be a demigod expert trying to break the space barrier. Waiting. Everyone was waiting. The final result of the whole thing was in the hands of a demigod expert. If it was a demigod of a foreign race that appeared in front of them, the whole situation would become very bad. It was almost impossible that they wouldn't fail to conquer the 3 galaxies. But on the contrary, if it was a demigod of the demon race that appeared, the crisis this time would be safely passed. Also, if the demigod of the demon race appeared safely, it was very likely that they would reap great rewards. It would definitely be a severe blow to the Ice God Clan and the Desolate God Clan. Long Yu and Red Oriole still didn't idle. When Long Yu finished absorbing the 12 Azure Lotus cleansing fire pills, Red Oriole finally absorbed enough spiritual energy to upgrade the balanced control secret technique to the 4th level. The heaven and earth spiritual energy she absorbed came from her own minor world. Since the sovereign's secret realm was constantly producing heaven and earth spiritual energy, cultivators in the sovereign's secret realm wouldn't be lacking in heaven and earth spiritual energy. It was just that to maintain the balance of the small world, they couldn't absorb too much at once. For example, like what Long Yu did in the netherworld realm, ordinary people couldn't use the method of exhausting the goose that laid the golden eggs to catch the fish. Once the spiritual energy in the small world was out of balance, it would affect the cultivator's combat strength. In the worst case, it would cause the small world to collapse, causing a chaotic storm to appear in the small world. In that case, the cultivator would even suffer serious internal injuries. Therefore, even a ruler's secret realm expert couldn't absorb spiritual energy endlessly when they needed it. Now that the balanced control secret technique had reached the 4th level, Red Oriole's spiritual sense had increased by 3 times. In addition to the light of equalization that Long Yu had given her, her spiritual sense was able to reach the level of a 7th stage sovereign. Not many people would believe it if they told others about this. Moreover, this was the result of Red Oriole's cultivation of the balanced control secret technique. If she continued to cultivate it, the effects would be even more terrifying. How could the secret technique left behind by the Jiyo Dragon Emperor be useless? Following that, Long Yu and Red Oriole prepared to do something even more filthy. The two of them went through their previous gains and discovered that there were a total of 34 small world fragments. They were all kinds of damaged world imprints that Red Oriole had collected and preserved until now. There must be a lot of things in these small world fragments. After all, most cultivators would store their cultivation resources and battle weapons in their own small world fragment. Come, let's go in together and search them one by one. If we cooperate with each other using the balanced control secret technique, we won't miss a single corner. Red Oriole was very excited. She loved plundering other people's belongings the most. Although they were the belongings of dead people, cultivation resources could only be used by living people. It would be a waste if she didn't find them. At this time, Red Oriole didn't let the remnant soul of the little girl in the demonic sage tomb know about it. After all, most of these small worlds belonged to the lightning fire demonic tribe 1,000 years ago. Some of them came from the small world fragments of the Ice God tribe's cultivators, but they only took up a small portion. The two of them chose a pitch-black stone and entered the small world. Judging from the aura of the black stone, the owner of the stone should have been a 2nd stage sovereign from the lightning fire demonic tribe. Unfortunately, he had been killed by the sudden galaxy burst 1,000 years ago. In the small world inside the pitch-black stone, Long Yu and Red Oriole appeared at the same time. As soon as they appeared, they felt an extremely desolate aura surrounding them. Just like when Long Yu had entered the remains of the small world of the Sufferers, the entire remains of the small world were actually desolate and empty, and there wasn't even the slightest trace of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Although small worlds could naturally produce spiritual chi of heaven and earth, once a cultivator died, the rate at which the small world produced spiritual chi of heaven and earth would be affected. In particular, when the small world was destroyed and turned into a small world fragment, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth would soon disappear completely. This was the case in the small world that the two of them came to. However, the two of them were already mentally prepared for the scene in front of them, so they didn't pay too much attention to it. Most of the small world fragments were like this, unless they had just killed an opponent and obtained a small world fragment. For example, they had a few small world fragments of the Ice God tribe, which might contain a lot of spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Chapter 1265. Exploring the wreckage of someone else's small world was a boring and tedious task, but it was also something to look forward to. This was because they could obtain something very useful if they were not careful. Creation items were very rare. After all, small worlds couldn't give birth to creation items unless the owner of the small world had stored some in the small world when they were alive. Even so, when the small world was destroyed during a disaster, many of the items inside would likely be destroyed as well. Therefore, the possibility of finding anything useful in the wreckage of someone else's small world was not high. For example, when Long Yu had explored the small world wreckage of the Sufferers, he had only obtained so many things from the small world wreckage of the Sufferers. If he had explored the wreckage of someone else's small world, he might not even have a decent harvest. Long Yu and Red Oriole entered the first small world wreckage and used the secret technique of balanced control. Long Yu raised his hand and released the balanced light, which he applied on Red Oriole's body. This increased Red Oriole's spiritual sense perception by 10 times. Moreover, the sharp increase in her spiritual sense perception also allowed her to search a larger area at the same time, lest she missed any treasures that she didn't find. There weren't many treasures in the small world wreckage to begin with. If she missed something good, it would be a huge loss. It had to be said that the combination of Long Yu and Red Oriole increased the speed at which they searched through the fragments of small worlds by tens of times just by relying on balanced control. Compared to other cultivators, they would be able to save a lot of time. Every small world wreckage had a radius of at least 10 billion kilometers. It would take at least 10 days to completely search them. But now, with Long Yu and Red Oriole working together, they could search at least 3 small world wreckages a day. In the first small world wreckage, Long Yu and Red Oriole continued to search. After around 8 hours, they discovered that the wreckage of this small world had completely dried up. Forget about cultivation resources, there wasn't even a single physical thing left. Even the innate magic fruits that could be found in ordinary small worlds were gone. All that was left was a terrifyingly huge spatial crack that seemed to have devoured all of the physical things. The remnant of this small world was severely damaged by the galactic torrent. It seems that nothing is left. Red Oriole and Long Yu were somewhat disappointed, but they didn't dwell on it. After all, they still had over 30 small world fragments waiting to be searched. They immediately began to search for another small world fragment. It was a small world fragment that they had obtained from an Ice God race member not long ago in the spacetime tunnel. This small world fragment was relatively large because the Ice God race member was a third-phase Great Dominator when it was alive. Red Oriole had expended a lot of effort to kill it. While the wreckage of this small world was still fresh, the two of them planned to sweep through it first. The so-called fresh referred to the fact that the owner of the small world had died not long ago, and did not die from great destruction. Therefore, there would be more things left in the small world, and the harvest would be more abundant. Red Oriole was the first to enter the frigid world mark, and then Long Yu followed. He discovered that this small world was actually filled with the power of frigid ice god characters. The 7th divine ability fruit of the third-phase Great Dominator of the Ice God race appeared in front of them. It was a giant icicle that stretched across the entire void, emitting boundless frigid chi. This is that Ice God race member's 7th divine ability. Long Yu felt the boundless frigid chi, and was frozen to the point that he almost couldn't bear it. Although the cultivation of this third-phase Great Dominator was far inferior to that of the Jiyo Dragon Emperor, the might of the 7th divine ability fruit was not the slightest bit weaker than the Dead Star Whirlpool. The fundamental reason was that the Jiyo Dragon Emperor had died a long time ago. If it wasn't for the fact that he was so powerful when he was alive, perhaps the 7 divine ability fruits would have been annihilated long ago. Now that Long Yu had arrived in the small world of the third-phase Great Dominator of the Ice God race, he immediately felt the pressure of an expert. The natural divine ability fruit was the foundation of the natural divine ability's power. At a critical moment, some experts would choose to self-destruct, and the power of their self-destruction would be at least 10 times greater than their normal combat power. You don't need to go and explore that place. I'll just go. Some people like to hide good things in the natural divine ability fruit, so we can't miss it. After Red Oriole finished speaking to Long Yu, she directly flew towards the giant icicle that stretched across the void. Long Yu could only wait where he was, bored to death as he watched Red Oriole fly into the giant icicle. Blood-colored divine characters continuously bloomed, and her blood-colored wings spread out. In the end, she even used the absolute beginning divine grade and 6 demon blood wings before she finally broke through the surface of the giant icicle. Immediately after, Red Oriole directly entered. Her entire body was protected by the blood-colored barrier formed by the 6 demon blood wings, which could ensure that she was not corroded by the power of the surrounding ice divine characters. Red Oriole was very strong to begin with, and this ice god had been killed by her. Now that she had entered the other party's natural divine ability fruit, she would not encounter too many problems. Not long after, Red Oriole did not disappoint Long Yu. She directly flew out of the giant icicle. Good stuff, hee hee. As soon as Red Oriole came out, she immediately gave him good news. She waved her hand twice, and from afar, it was actually a sparkling and translucent ice crystal that emitted boundless charm. An item of creation. Long Yu narrowed his eyes. He did not expect his luck to be so good. He had directly obtained an item of creation. Moreover, from the looks of it, it was not an ordinary item of creation. It was a third-grade Earth Seal rank item of creation. If he were to exchange it on the battlefield, he would need at least 200,000 to 300,000 battlefield army contribution points. This could be said to be a very good harvest. Moreover, this was only the first harvest from the wreckage of this small world. It was very likely that there would be other treasures in the future. Let's continue forward. The two of them walked forward hand in hand. Along the way, whenever they encountered a natural divine ability fruit, Red Oriole would run into it and plunder it. Long Yu would just wait outside. After a few times there were indeed more harvests. All of the items of creation were hidden within those natural divine ability fruit. However, apart from the first sparkling and translucent ice crystal that was third-grade Earth Seal rank, the items of creation that they found later on were only mysterious jade rank. There were a total of 4 items, but this was already very good. After all, who would hide a cultivation resource like an item of creation after obtaining it? Most people would directly absorb the power of creation within and use it to improve their own strength. To be able to find an item of creation in the wreckage of a small world was definitely a very lucky thing. Immediately after, the two of them encountered something that they had expected. In this wreckage of a small world, there was indeed the existence of a continent. On this continent that was condensed out of ice, countless ice gods lived here, just like how countless people lived in Shen Wu world. The countless ice gods that lived here had also not reached the ruler's secret realm. At most, they were existences in the emperor's secret realm. Moreover, they were similar to those in Shen Wu world. The strongest ice gods were only a few at the level of the 3-star emperor. They were not even a threat to Long Yu, let alone Red Oriole. This many ice gods was also a very big harvest for the two of them. Do you want it or should I? Long Yu asked. With so many ice gods, they could be kept in a small world or inner world. At a crucial moment, they would be able to increase their power by a lot. However, there was a corresponding price to pay, which was to provide them with heaven and earth spirit energy to cultivate. Otherwise, these ice gods would quickly die, leaving only corpses behind. You want it, my small world's heaven and earth spirit energy is already running out, I can't hold these guys anymore. But you don't have a small world right now, only a inner world, so there's no heaven and earth spirit energy for them. It's a bit annoying, Red Oriole pondered and said. Hearing that, Long Yu checked and found that more than half of the large group of ice gods he took in Shen Wu world a long time ago had already died. The remaining few were sickly and didn't seem to have any life force or vitality left. These ice gods were kept by Long Yu in Shen Wu world when the envoy of death was still around. It had been quite some time, but now they were all dead. If I think about it, there shouldn't be a problem. After all, I'm about to step into the ruler's secret realm. I'll go back and see if I can use the 9 Hell Tablet as a world imprint. Long Yu slowly said. By temporarily keeping these ice gods in his inner world, he would be able to take their power for his own use at a critical moment, which was a life-saving measure for Long Yu. Although this continent where the ice gods lived wasn't as big as Shen Wu world, and the number of ice gods here wasn't as high as the number of cultivators in Shen Wu world, there were still a lot of them, at least a few 100 billion ice gods of various levels. Red Oriole nodded, agreeing with what Long Yu said. For the time being, there shouldn't be too many ice gods dying. In truth, if they were only used to fill up the inner world or the small world, it wouldn't make much of a difference whether the living beings were ice gods, humans, or beasts, since they were all there to borrow power from. On the other hand, if there were humans and beasts living in the small world, they would be a bit hesitant to borrow power at a critical moment, since they were of the same race. This was a trade. The ruler's secret realm cultivator would provide the living beings in the small world with the necessary environment to survive and cultivate. At a critical moment, the living beings living within the small world would sacrifice themselves for the ruler's secret realm cultivator, taking away most of their power. Long Yu hadn't done this before, so he didn't know much about it. But if he ran into a difficult opponent, he might be able to give it a try. Chapter 1266. Soon, Long Yu took all the ice gods on the ice continent into his inner world. This sudden upheaval made all the ice gods panic. They did not know what was going on, and the whole continent was in chaos. But no matter what, it was impossible for the ice god clan to leave that continent. Long Yu was too lazy to care about the feelings of the ice god clan. But no matter what, it was impossible for the ice god clan to leave that continent. Anyway, in the end, these ice gods were the result of him absorbing their power. If he faced a situation like before where he needed to continuously consume power, now Long Yu only needed to absorb the power of these ice gods. Of course, even if he could not absorb all of their power, he could easily absorb at least 10% of their power. How many ice gods were there on this continent? At least hundreds of billions of them. With so many ice gods, if Long Yu absorbed 10% of the power of each of them, their total power would definitely be several times that of Long Yu's. Of course, there was no need for Long Yu to absorb their power until the critical moment, because even if they were just in Long Yu's inner world, they could passively enhance the power of Long Yu's mind realm. With so many ice gods, Long Yu's mind realm probably increased several times, so that Long Yu's basic power also increased by 30%. Then, the two continued to search the whole wreckage of the small world. They searched all the 7 primordial magic fruits, and in the end, they did not find any other good things, so they left the wreckage of the small world. It took them a total of a day to search this small world. Then, the two continued to search the wreckage of other small worlds. First, the wreckage of the ice god's small world that was relatively fresh. After several days, the two of them finally explored all the wreckage of the ice god clan's small world that they had obtained not long ago. They also obtained a lot of things. Unfortunately, most of them were special pills that could only be taken by the ice god clan. They were useless to the demon clan and the human clan. Between different races, the physiological state was too different. The demon race and the human race were still fine, mainly because their physiological structure was not much different. However, compared to other races, there was almost no similarity. The demon clan had a demon core, and the human clan had a dantian. However, there was only one ice core in the body of the ice god. Naturally, the types of elixirs that they could absorb were different. Only the things that were born from the advancement of martial arts realms were the same for every race. For example, there were true spirits, divine abilities, and innate divine ability fruit. There was no difference between these things. Among the items obtained, the ones that were useful to both Long Yu and Red Oriole were undoubtedly some weapon refinement and artifact forging materials, as well as a small number of creation items. In total, they were worth more than 300,000 army contribution points, which was quite a good harvest. Most importantly, the Earth Seal Grade 3 creation item that the two of them had found at the beginning was worth more than 200,000 contribution points. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to find anything truly valuable in these small worlds. Generally speaking, the members of the Ice God clan who came out to battle rarely carried their precious items with them. It was not only the Ice God clan, but also the Demon clan and the Human clan. If the human clan and the demon clan wanted to take the initiative to attack the territories of the foreign races, then the participating cultivators would most likely store their precious items. This was because the probability of death was too high for the attackers, and it was very likely that they would not be able to return. If they carried their precious items with them, wouldn't they be giving them to the foreign races? Most importantly, on the battlefield of the foreign races, most people didn't have the time to pay attention to the fallen resources during the battle. No matter who it was, survival was definitely the top priority. Moreover, no one knew whether they could survive in the chaos of the battlefield. This required everyone to focus all their energy on the battle. Once they were distracted, it was very likely that they would go for wool and come home shorn. It was normal for them to be killed directly. Long Yu and Red Oriole were extremely lucky to obtain a few fresh Ice God Clan small world remains this time. It was precisely because of this that they made a huge profit. For Long Yu, he had just obtained 5 million contribution points. The things he found now were worth more than 300,000 contribution points, which didn't seem to be much in comparison. However, one had to know how much contribution Long Yu had made in order to obtain these 5 million contribution points. 300,000 contribution points. Even Lei Han and Bai Yu, who were both 5th-stage sovereigns, would normally need 2 to 3 months of hard work to obtain such a sum. Therefore, the harvest this time was really not small. However, it didn't seem to be of much use to Long Yu. After searching these small world remains, the two of them still had many small world remains from the demon saint's tomb. There were a total of 27 small world remains. However, the two of them didn't have the time to search these small world remains for the time being. About half a month had passed since then, and the two demigod experts from the demon race had finally returned. On this day, Long Yu and Red Oriole had just come out of the Ice God clan's small world remains when someone came to inform them that the two demigods, Dragon Wing and Landslide, had finally returned in victory. It was said that the battle this time was very fruitful. This made Long Yu happy. The battle was very fruitful. Could it be that the two demigods had killed all 3 demigod aliens? Although this was the outcome that Long Yu had always imagined, he had always felt that demigod experts weren't that easy to kill, so it might not have been achieved. If it was true, Long Yu's previous worries were unnecessary. He was worried that the aliens would know that he had the Ice God clan's holy relic on him. If the alien races knew about it, it was very likely that they would all join forces. It could be said that this move of Long Yu's was a risky one, but there was no doubt that it was the only thing he could do at that time. Fortunately, the situation seemed to be quite good. Long Yu and Red Oriole hurried out to take a look. As expected, they found that a lot of people were walking toward the mission hall. Almost everyone in the entire battlecruiser fortress was crowding toward the mission hall. Long Yu had been to the mission hall of the battlecruiser fortress a few times, but he had never seen so many people crowded together. There were probably hundreds of thousands of people in this mission hall. Of course, these people wanted to see the two demigods of the demon race. After all, ordinary people might not even have a chance to see demigod existences even once in hundreds of years. This time, it was only because the Ice God clan had launched a rather sudden plan that the demigod experts were mobilized. Otherwise, demigod experts would rarely be mobilized in a battle. Usually, demigod experts had their own responsibilities and would not participate in ordinary battles. Otherwise, the alien races would also send demigod experts to deal with them. There was no need for this. Therefore, the probability of ordinary people meeting demigod experts was extremely low. But now, the two demigod experts had finally returned in victory. It was said that the entire battle with the Ice God clan would be reversed. The key to the entire battle, coupled with the appearance of demigod experts, caused the mission hall to be packed with people. When Long Yu and Red Oriole came out, many people recognized them and made way for them, allowing them to walk toward the center of the mission hall. At this time, the demigod experts of the demon race, Dragon Wing and Landslide, had both turned into human forms and came to the center of the mission hall. The powerful aura they emitted made the hundreds of thousands of people around them not dare to say a word. Therefore, the entire mission hall was unexpectedly quiet. No one made any noise. This situation was too rare. Only the aura of a demigod could suppress so many people at the same time. The hero is here. Soon, under the whispers of many people around, Long Yu and Red Oriole finally came to the center of the mission hall and stood in front of the demigod experts. Long Yu was once again face to face with the two demigods of the demon race that he had met before. Boy, well done. In the entire war against the Ice God clan, you played a decisive role. The Black Tiger demigod had turned into a black-skinned brawny man. He laughed and said to Long Yu, "Now, I can finally announce the result of the entire battle. The final result of the battle in the space tunnel is that we annihilated the two demigods of the Ice God clan and killed the demigod of the Desolate God clan." Although the result was within Long Yu's expectations, he still found it hard to hold back his excitement when he really heard it. They really killed them. The Ice God clan has lost two demigods. From now on, they will definitely shrink their defense line, and it is even less likely that they will actively attack us. The battle that has lasted for so many years is finally coming to an end. After Long Yi turned into the shape of a human, he was an extraordinarily handsome golden-haired young man. He also said with a smile. The crowd was seething after the news was announced. The others couldn't hold it anymore. Even though the aura of the demigod experts covered the whole place, hundreds of thousands of people couldn't help but cheer. It was too shocking. They had killed the demigods of alien races, and 3 of them at once. As a result, the overall strength of the Ice God clan would be greatly weakened after the death of 2 demigods. It would be impossible for them to invade the demons again. It was even possible that the demons would take the initiative to attack the Ice God clan. Although the demons didn't know how many demigods the Ice God clan had in total, they had about the same number as the demons. Now that 2 demigods had died, it would be very difficult for the Ice God clan to defend themselves if the demons attacked the territory of the Ice God clan. Of course, the Ice God clan wasn't the only enemy on the battlefield of alien races. There were many more enemies around the territory of the demons, ready to take advantage of the situation. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.